you and getting this invite. And, you know, I've done it to Lynn now 2 or 3 times. And the other day Tuesday, I did it to her for a session. And I'm like, oh, what an idiot. So are you affiliated with St. Mary's in Royal Oak? How does all of this connect? You'll have to mute.
I
Flores is Sag.
No, he's a
Florence? Oh, Floret.
Yeah.
Oh, Floret. Floret?
Floret.
Floret. Oh, yeah, that's not.
No, American, like Irish or something.
Good.
So they had this group, and they were a part of it, and they would do conferences there at UDM. And Father Gilbert was very involved as well. So they have like this whole Hispanic community.
So I don't know if Gilbert is, I don't know if he studied at UDM or not. I can't remember, but.
He didn't mention it. He just saw me with like a Lawrence Tech backpack, and we always say hi to each other, but I don't know.
So how did this connection between you and me come up to him?
So there was movie, like a discussion instead of like book discussions, there were movie discussions.
Right.
We were seeing this movie, and I couldn't stay.
Chipmunks 1, 2, and 3. Are there some movies that you guys were watching?
I have no idea. So I was gonna
My
say
favorite movies, by the way.
There were free food, and I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. But then I wasn't finished with my homework assignment, so I'm like, I had my bag, and it said Lawrence Tech. He's like, oh, you're there at Lawrence Tech. Who's your teacher? And I said, Mark Farlow. And he said, oh, please tell him I said hi. I know him really well, and he always. He would come here and he would have like a discussion or I don't remember what he said, but something like that.
Yeah.
He said, please tell him I said hi.
Of course.
I said I would.
That's sweet. He's very good. So he's here and Paige is here. They were concerned. We'll be starting in a few minutes. And Lynn, looks like you're here and you have an internet connection tonight?
Yeah, it seems to be working. It just was down momentarily when I was initially trying to sign in. So luckily, hopefully we're good for the evening.
Good, I'm glad. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're missing Eric. We just lost Alex.
No, Eric's here.
Oh, there he is.
Missing movies.
We're missing. Oh, we're not going to have. We're not going to have 2 of them, so we might be able to get started. I want to make sure that you all have uploaded for tonight's class the materials to Blackboard or to the Drive. Margaret.
Yeah, Margaret.
Give that back.
Thanks. One of the best critics around. Have you ever had Margaret Wong?
I had her for lab for everyone.
She's good. She's a good professor. Wu, Paige, Nancy, Michael, Lynn, Josh, Eric, Carmen, Andrew. That is 9. Alex is 10.
Josh and Courtney are gonna be here, right?
That's correct. So that is that it? Is that, does that make 12? But there's 13. Who's missing? We're gonna get started. No, she's here.
No, it's not there.
Luis is not here.
Oh, yes, that's great. Ash, maybe?
And Ash is in class and he'll probably just show up here. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do something. We'll get started in just a moment. I'm gonna get my other computer out.
So are you taking any other classes?
Mhm. Doing advanced structures, then fundamentals, 2 leadership classes, and
You work?
yeah,
Oh,
and digital fabrication.
oh, wow.
Where do you work?
Show stack.
That's right. Thank you. But that's a part-time gig, right?
It's 30 hours max, so it's like it's not.
They do that too. I'd have to pay you benefits probably.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's really flexible hours.
How's Steve doing?
Steve,
Duzinski?
I don't really talk to him that much. So, is it because there's like a dad and a son there?
Yeah.
Is that the older one?
Steve is older.
Far a little on the other side of mine. So, but his son sits like 2 behind me. So.
I was gonna take it to be instruction, but I couldn't seem to find like the class openings. There weren't any.
Well, they had
Like in
2
the
sessions and then one closed
That's
because there wasn't
they
enough
closed
people.
mine, yeah. I'm just taking construction management. It's a lot to read. It's a good class.
My last undergrad semester, so I kind of had to
Yeah.
take all those classes.
Okay. So Paige, you're gonna go first. We'll get started with you. If you're ready, are you ready?
Yep, I think I'm ready.
Okay. Too bad you're not here tonight.
I know. I had something for another class.
Okay, so I've opened your file and I'm going to start the timer and we can get started.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My first page shows my first floor basement plan. And the system I use for the parking is a one-way system. And I was able to fit 50 parking spaces down there. I also have the meter room and an extra room down there, just in case I forgot something. And I have the ramp on the upper left corner, is what that long green box is in the use diagram. And then all the green are circulation. And then moving to my next page is floor 2, the ground plan. So it's a U-shaped building, and the retail is shown in that light purple pinkish color, and that's along Alfred. And then I also have some on the other side of the building in the corner along John R. in the alleyway. The rest of the rooms are for the people that live in the community. So that's like the dog wash room, the gym, laundry room. I have an employee quarters, and also there's some community space on the first floor. And then I put the parking for the retail in between in the U shape. And the access to the underground parking is behind the structure in that green box. Moving to the next page is my floors 3 through 5, which is all the apartment spaces. On the ends of the U shape of the building are the 2-bedroom, and then the rest of them are 1-bedroom. On the 3rd floor, I'm working on taking one of the 1-bedrooms out and replacing it with a laundry room. So I do have 50 units. And then moving to the next page, showing my roof diagram, which is floor 6. And there is a roof garden and more community space up there. And also the mechanical rooms for the elevators are on the roof. And the next 2 pages are showing elevations of the building. And then the last page is a 3D model, also showing what materials I wanted to use on the exterior. So it was mostly going to be brick due to the fact that a lot of the buildings in the area are brick because they are older buildings. So I want to kind of continue that, but I wanted to have a modern feel. So I was thinking of including just stucco and or white painted brick. And one of the themes of my building altogether is I don't want it to feel enclosed, like they're trapped in this building. So if they can't leave it very often, or if they're like not able to, like they can't make it very far, they can't travel, I wanted them to feel, the inhabitants to feel like they're not enclosed in the specific room that they're in. So I wanted to include a lot of light and openness and large community space where they can actually have like an outdoor experience since they don't have yards. And I think that's all.
Okay, let me reset the clock. Okay, so you can probably discern that we don't have any sort of critics tonight, so you'll have to rely on me for some input, and that'll be a little bit different than what you sort of experienced on Monday, and we'll go alone until Ash can be here, either in person or online. So I want to start with a real basic thing right off the bat. I think the property lines and north arrows and street names all kind of, I mean, I'm going to pick on you here. All first year, second year stuff need to show up on all of your drawings, and I think that it's really, really critical that you do that. I also think because I think I'm confused a little bit about what you've done. Initially, I was confused about your sort of site orientation, and as I started to get into the set of drawings, and really as I looked at page 2 and saw where the streets were being identified, then I understood the approach that you're making, and then that began to unpack a whole bunch of other concerns that I have. And so I'm gonna like bear down on the concerns, but I'm also gonna tell you how the movie ends. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna suggest that you have to go through a new sort of iteration of your layout, but that given the layout itself, it's an easy fix. It will, so just take a deep breath and bear with me here. If, Paige, you and any of your colleagues go back to the program brief and the site plan that had the dimensions of the property, the angle of incidence on the property. Hi, Karen. I have my class. And it had where retail should go is that pink corner band. And it had where the speed ramp should go. Those kinds of things. So you didn't do any of that. So that's the bad news. You ignored maybe, or didn't maybe understand the clues and cues that I was giving you. And by not either asking me about that or ignoring what that site plan was doing and saying, you made it harder on yourself, right? Because you had to create this site plan. And I really wanted to, like, I was like serving up an entree for you, right? Poached salmon entree with a béarnaise sauce. I can't make a better entree for you than that. And I knew that if I left you guys the site plan with no indications about where I think the alley ingress for the speed ramp should go or where the retail should go, y'all would just kind of spend your time spinning your wheels in a time crunch of sorts that we just don't have the luxury of. So I really struggled thinking, should I or shouldn't I? Should I give them the cues on this or not? And I felt like the answer to that was yes, right? I really needed you to put the speed ramp off the alley and not off of Alfred, because it would be a poor urban response to introduce a curb cut on a street where there are no curb cuts. Okay. Right? So that's, you're probably saying, oh fuck, I just really screwed up, right? And it gets worse, right? I'm gonna like take the scheme apart and help you understand why it gets worse. But again, I'm gonna tell you how this movie ends. I'm gonna tell you that the salmon's really amazing and the béarnaise sauce is incredible. Just flip the speed ramp, right? You mirror it, bring it off the alley for one thing. The retail was encouraged to be in 2 areas. Didn't have to be. It could be in 3 areas. But I think that the prerogative that we were encouraging you to make it easier for you, right, was to put the retail on the hard corner, right, which is at Alfred and John R. And maybe I said it in conversations with you, and maybe I didn't. But I said it, I think, a couple of times. In my estimation, the retail really needs to be along John R. and not along Alfred. And so if we were working together on that plan, the retail space that you've got faces not only the new interior car park and John R., but there's a retail space that only faces the interior car park. And that business retailer is going to struggle for identity, right, and presence on the street. And I think that the retailer on Alfred Street, the one that's inboard, right, the one that's in the center at the top of your plan, I think she would struggle there too. But I don't think a retailer at the hard corner and running south along John R. would fail. I think that retailer would do very well. And that, of course, is what that site plan, that site diagram that I gave you is saying. That's what that pink, that's what that pink line work on that site plan was trying to like get you to see. So now you're saying, oh God, that's going to screw everything up, right? Well, I think you take the C, right? Can you see that? That's your plan, and you just do that. Okay. I think you literally turn off the notes and flop, and you reverse or mirror that plan, because designers have to be able to be nimble like that, to take a critique like the one you're hearing, because a developer is going to do that. And then you're going to say, well, wait a minute now. I've got all this parking. How do we get into the parking? Well, maybe there's ways that not only do you flip it so it ends up like this, right? But it maybe flips like that, right? On the east-west axis so that the short leg of the C page is on the alley. And if you remember any of the presentations from Tuesday night, you remember that all of the speed ramps, right, came in off the alley. And they also had like a drive aisle into the alley. Now, you may not get as many surface spots in this new harebrained concept of flip and flop that I'm suggesting for you, but I think that's okay. Here's why. You are forecasting 50 spaces downstairs, and if when I look at that carefully enough, you're able to get that, if it actually works, then you don't need any spaces on the ground floor at grade, right? So, because you only need 50 spaces. Why? Because you don't need to park for the retail components. You can, but you don't need to. So the question as a designer, I think, is to weigh, right, the benefit or the return on that. Am I going to be able to make money off of those parking spaces? Maybe, maybe not. Am I going to be able to make money off of like the elimination of those spaces and getting rid of them at grade and privileging maybe open space with landscaping and planters and a fire pit and a barbecue? Yeah, right? Wouldn't you want, I mean, imagine yourself being my abundant age, right? And wouldn't you want to be in a place that has a fire pit and a patio and furniture selected by you, Paige? Yeah, I would. So like those are the kinds of decisions that I'm like, those are the things that are interesting. Those are the design decisions that, with a sensible first floor plan that I basically tried to give you as an entree here, I give you all the rules and the tools to do that you can then make decisions about, right? Because I didn't say a ground floor open space with a patio and benches specified by Paige, but like if you brought that to the table, then, right, then Paige's ideas about design come out, right? So that's where I think the innovation lies. So within the restrictions that I gave you for the site is the opportunity to sort of create some wonderful, like, creativity blossoms, right? When you have all these sort of restrictions. That's the first thing, right?
Okay.
So like you're going, oh crap, I've got like a whole bunch of flippy floppy stuff, actions to do. And you're gonna have to like look at it. You're gonna have to like take it apart and kind of put it together again, like Frankenstein, like Frankenstein, right? But I think it's a workable thing because it's a pure geometry of a site. And I know that the speed ramp works off of the alley. I know that because I designed the building for the office. Now, the other night, we talked a little bit about, like I think it was in Luis's plan, he had the elevator doors opening, right? And you would just like walk out of the elevator and like, whoa, I'd have to pull you back in because Andrew was driving his Ferrari right past me at 30 miles an hour in the drive aisle. So the elevator and the stairs, a landing, like a barrier-free, like a 60-inch landing or sidewalk. Then they'll have to have a slopey surface to get to the landing of the elevation of the car park. And elevators are going to need like a wall around them, like a room. Maybe it's just all storefront glazing, sash and glass, but a room, right? So that the cold air of the lower level, particularly in January and February and March, doesn't like whisk its way up into the elevator shaft and then belching with every time the elevator opens onto any one of the vertical floors above, right? So it's like an airlock. So the elevators need airlocks, right? Stairs don't necessarily, but when you have a stair and an elevator bundled together like you do, then I think you do that, right? You just sort of hug them, right? I also think that I think you may want to like draw or illustrate cars in the spaces, and sometimes I'll illustrate cars driving about in the diagram of the ground floor plan, you guys, and you'll see that you might lose four spaces, maybe 6 downstairs. What does that mean? Then you're probably saying, oh shit, remember I talk like a truck driver. Oh no, I've got a deficit downstairs now. Spaces up top, right? I need them on the ground floor. But, oh, hi.
Yeah, it's my dog.
Yeah, so, oops. So the ground level can, that the ground level can accommodate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You better give them a biscuit.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. I want to go back to kind of the first thing about north arrows and wow, that was fast. North arrows and scales and things like that. You all need to have what we call like a graphical scale, which is like the ziggy-zaggy one, right? 0, 2 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet, or whatever the scale is. You need to have those kinds of scale illustrations or indexes on your drawings. You have to have north arrows. I guess what I'd like to say to you all is do one north arrow that is true, right? That's the one that's at an angle. And then superimpose in that true north arrow the assumed north. So ladies and gentlemen, make the assumed north always up, straight up and down, perpendicular to the sheet page, but I'm also saying it to all of y'all, right? Don't keep doing the site plans and the floor plans and the unit plans with the north arrow at an angle. It's just driving me crazy, right? And it would drive anybody looking at it crazy. So just do it once on the site plan, you guys, and then everything is true north on the sheet. On your sheet, and for anybody that comes after you or came before you, make sure you draw the curbs and sidewalks.
Okay.
Draw cars in the parking spaces, right? Label the streets. Please use larger text. Please, please. We can't see it. It's really hard to see it.
Okay.
And in your case page, I love the use and circulation diagrams. The circulation's probably going to need a color, right? So horizontal circulation might be yellow, for example, and the vertical circulation for like the stairs and the elevator, maybe that's like pink.
Okay.
Just like you colored the use diagrams. But I think those diagrams need to be half the size that they are. I think that they should be really small and not necessarily be so detailed. Because the larger they get, the more detail they have, and that's kind of distracting.
Okay.
Now, the third thing I want to talk about is the elevations and the massing. I appreciate that all of you all are thinking about the building as a series of horizontals. I'm looking right now at Miss Carmen because she has that, right? Where everything is stacked because the program is stacked, right? That's kind of the nature, that's kind of the DNA of how this building is organized. You are going to hear me say for the remainder of this semester, fight that. You are going to hear me say that the neighborhood is not or resonate with a stacked big thing that expresses horizontality because the neighborhood is, as we know from the history of the neighborhood and the context, looking closely at the photographs of it, it's a series of tall, vertically proportioned things next to one another. So while the DNA of the building, right, the bones and the DNA, the circulation system is horizontal, the context is this, right? It's vertical. So how in a big ass thing like this, like what you drew, how do architects, how do you blend those together? How do you resolve that sort of compositional tension? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at case studies, right? And you look carefully at them. So we need to have you go back to that. All right. That's all I got for you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
You're welcome. Good. So flip and maybe flip again, right? It's, you know what I mean? It's going to
Yeah.
be kind of, it's going to be kind of like kindergarten with sort of dull scissors and construction paper. Like, just be playful. Like, be, you know, don't get all caught up in where the elevators and stairs and how many spaces you're going to have. Just get to a site plan that's resolved against the rules of the original site plan, and I think you'll be in good shape.
Okay.
Okay. And what's your dog's name?
I have two. One's name's Harley and the other's one is Rocky.
Harley and Rafi, like A-R-A-F-I?
No, like Rocky, like R-O-C-K-Y.
I see. I have 3, so I beat you on dog count. Okay, Josh, you're next. Let me pull up that. Do I have it?
You should have it. Maybe I've dumped it in the wrong folder.
He just wasn't in that module
Those are the
too.
old ones.
I'm in module 2.
They're probably in the benchmark one.
Yeah, they're in benchmark one. Which is a different
Oh.
folder.
Of course.
Yeah, I thought this was benchmark 1, so I threw it in there.
It is. I'm just. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say to you, Paige, and I'm saying it to you all, because because Josh's drawings and Eric's drawings, and I think some others. So I'm. So how do I say this delicately? The title sheets are really cute. I don't know where they came from. I don't know who set them up. I'm not sure what the about them. I think if you look at the drawings that Ash put on Blackboard that were authored by Janelle Schmidt last year, they are really like at the highest level of quality. They don't have any title blocks on them. They don't portend design development documents or from an office or construction documents from an office, because they intend to be in her portfolio, right? They intend to be like each plate intends to be something that she can put on the wall and quite literally go to Michael's and put a frame around it. And then someone like me would pay $20,000 for it, right? So each plate is its own work of art. So I know I'm going to see more of them tonight because I'm looking at I'm looking at Josh's right now, and I know I just saw that a moment ago, and I know I saw it several times last Tuesday. But I just want to be clear because I think a lot of you do things in kind of maybe anticipation that I would react positively to it, because I work in an office and these are the kinds of drawings that you would think an office produces, but I'm not expecting title blocks. What I am expecting for you all to be doing the very best drawings that you've ever done in your life, so that they will happily and proudly go in your portfolio. So now that I just took the piss out of you, Josh, because you've got the title blocks, again, like with Paige, she's probably thinking, oh my God, I completely skated outside of the figure 8 tonight, and because I didn't follow the rules. It's not the end of the world, because the other thing is that when you do these title blocks, right, you have a lot of like negative space potential, right, that you can integrate other content into. So my preference is to utilize all of that sheet. And when you go back and look at the project that Ash posted, and he's just joined us, when you go back and look at Janelle's project, right, you're gonna see that they are sort of standalone works of art. Fire this up, and you can begin whenever you're ready, Josh.
Okay. First sheet that I have is my site plan, and I'm just trying to indicate on this that we have public transportation that's off to the west that we should be considering. We have Detroit City Modern to the east that we ought to be considering. We have moderate traffic on John R. We have light traffic on Alfred, and we have a really powerful view of downtown Detroit, but only if you get up higher. So those are the things that I'm kind of considering when I'm considering the form and the shape and the layout of my building. We go to the next sheet. This is kind of more diagrammatic, really, but it's indicating that Detroit's history in the 50s was a lot more dense, and today there's a lot of void space. So I'm considering that as the form of my building. Maybe there's a void within this building. Maybe that void helps to scale this massive building down and make it more contextual with its surrounding environment. And then what that also allows us to do is it brings more sunlight into the interior space of the building, which we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But what I think is really interesting about this void space is that I've been able to make this kind of sloped ramp thing that, if you look to the diagrams on the left, you can see, that's kind of what the view you'd be getting of Detroit skyline on the upper image. And the lower image is kind of the north end of Detroit, looking the other way, and you can you're seeing right down John R. Street, because it does actually kink back the other way, and it kind of lines up with this void that I've created in the building, which I thought was pretty interesting. Next sheet is first floor. We've got the retail spaced along John R. There's actually 3 retail spaces. And then we've got the residential lobby on Alfred Street to take advantage of the public transportation access that we have to the west. In the center of the building, we've got 12 parking spaces, and then on the lower left, there's the parking ramp where everybody has placed it. On the next sheet, lower level, we've got 38 parking spaces, all arranged in a one direction flow. What I've also considered down here is these open air wells. So on the east and the west, I've got air wells, and that's kind of why I built within that setback, is because I wanted to have a true open parking structure that actually vents the space below, so we don't have to do it mechanically. The next sheet is level 2. We go up here, we've got 12 residential units, and I kind of screwed myself here with doing this cool angle shape because now all these units are slightly different, so I'm going to have fun laying those out. But there's also recreational space within this corridor, and you can kind of see they're spaced in key places to take advantage of views. We also have the laundry room here, and kind of more in the center of the building, the only real center of the building that we're going to have as we go higher up into the building. There's 2 trash rooms because of the form of the building. It seemed to make more sense than trying to have just one. And I figure if there's 2 trash rooms, maybe there's less trash in each room. So the guy only has to empty one room per week instead of emptying one room twice a week, if that makes any sense. Next sheet, level 3. 13 units here. You can kind of start to get a feel for this sloping interior garden space that the form of the building is creating. I'm thinking that if I cant my sidewalks just enough, that I could get an accessible route or accessible means of egress along this. But in case I can't, I've also included an exterior stair so that anybody coming down that corridor on the left-hand side, that's not considered dead end. It's actually got a door out there, which can then lead you to the public right away. Next sheet, level 4. There's 13 units here, 2 recreational spaces. And this is actually the first floor where we get a loop feel. You know, there's this loop being developed. I'm thinking maybe these older seniors, you know, they love to go and walk around stores all the time. So maybe instead of going to the store, they can walk around here.
That's hitting close.
Oh, you don't do that, do you, Mark?
Not anymore.
So anyways, that's it for this plan. We continue up to level 5. There's some more units up here. There's only 1 recreational space, but then there's this really nice outdoor terrace that fronts John R. because that whole side steps back to try to give some relief to the building and try to make it feel a little less massive. Continuing on up to the roof, we've got the gym is up on the roof along with a community room and a work share space. The idea for the work share space is to allow for anybody that is working at home. Maybe they have dogs in the case of Mark, or maybe they have, I don't know, a number of other distractions that would keep them distracted from their work. So if they have this additional space where they can go and do this work from home, I think that's going to really help with the greening of the building. You know, people don't have to drive to work every day, or they don't have to leave the building. They can actually just work here. It's also got an outdoor terrace and a green roof. And then the other portion of the building, the one that gets more southern exposure because there's not this massive eight-story building next to it, has got a large solar array. Continuing on to the elevations sheet. This is really just more of a massing elevations. I haven't gotten to laying out windows and everything yet, but you can kind of see the inspirational images off to the right. This got this strong vertical feel, kind of what Mark was indicating just recently. And then down below that is the real inspirational image that I'm in love with. I don't know if my building is going to quite take on this nature or not, but I think that's a really cool aesthetic. Next sheet is just some more elevations. You can kind of see how, as we get, you know, if we're looking at the east elevation, you can see how the building climbs as it gets closer and closer to our massive neighbor to the south. That's trying to make the transition between the lower buildings on the north and the higher buildings on the south. Last sheet is just my building sections where you can see this interior sloped roof starting to take place. You can see where I plan on putting a couple trees, and in this space I've got actually an area to plant them in because of the way the roof slopes down, and we could do some interior plantings or something. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Josh. You hit that with 23 seconds to spare, including your interruption from me. So you, I need to go, pardon me, I need to go back to the first floor plan. Well, you know, I see on the 5th floor and the 4th floor, I see the donut of circulation. And on the 3rd floor, I see you've got a continuous outdoor stair that takes you flights to grade. That's a very clever solution. This one here.
Oh, this one.
Right? So it's like stair next to stair. But I'm looking at level 2, and I'm concerned about unit 211 and then 212.
Okay. Why is that?
Because is there a dead end condition there?
No, there's a door up on the north end of that corridor as well that leads out to the patio, which also leads out to a ramp on the east or the west side of the property.
So I'm a little anxious about that. Especially if there's no access. Yeah, I mean, I think the route would have to be marked, right? I think I think that's, you know, lit and like OSHA striped, right? And maybe even exit signs if they could hang from the sky, for example. But like the idea of leaving, so you're not leaving a rated stairway and then going out onto the roof and then going back into a rated stairway to go down and out. But it is a little unusual to do that. So I don't think it's a ball buster. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I think the corridor that creates the loop on 4 and 5 and can actually happen on 2 as well. So you may want to cut a north-south cut through the building and see if that would like muck up the karma for you in terms of your design. But I think it would solve more problems, and you wouldn't need to wade into this murky and fairly innovative, if not unorthodox, egress scenario that someone who knows a lot more about that crap than me, you know, busts your chops in December at the final review, right? So, right. So I think that's something worth thinking about. And by the way, not that I'm right, and not that you need to do what I just said. But so what you need to do, I think, is to go back to your excellent research, talk to Eric, maybe talk to other people in your office and say, is this plausible, or is my professor not so harebrained after all? Is he right about this? And figure it out, because part of the fun, right, of these mixed-use buildings is solving these wonky sort of scenarios to make these kind of innovative designs work. And so I'm asking you to be like, I'm asking you to be a little bit more tenacious with this,
Sure.
right? Not just like, you know, acquiescing to what I'm saying and doing it, but like fight for it. But if I'm right, I think there's a solution that lurks within the original design of the way things are laying out, you know, upstairs. That's the first thing. The car park. So car parks, right? Parking levels, all, you know, they come in like different, what they call LOS, level of service, right? So like, this was a parking deck in Irvine City. The level of service would be such that any idiot like me could park and find their way around and not like bang into cars and columns and, you know, stay in the right lane when it was on the left side of the, you know what I mean? Like any imbecile can park there, right? And in places like this where the level of service is completely different because everybody here knows the facility, right, from having lived there, and maybe even has their own space, right? This is the kind of thing that plays out in buildings like this. And this is also, you guys, one of the reasons why I'm asking you to consider that retail parking happens on the street so that you stay within the level of service that is safer and easier for these crazy complex mixed-use buildings, because these are crazy enough as they are. However, so having said all of that, like, you got to be on your game. You cannot be tugging on a beer at Grey Ghost down the street and then drive your car into this parking deck, because you got to be on your game parking in your deck, right? So I'm kind of feeling like some of the spaces might need, so draw some cars in them. Show, you know, you can actually get like civil engineering. People have like the templates, like the footprint in the snow of what a car with a radius, right, actually has, and prove it, right? Prove that you can have that drink with me at Grey Ghost and drive without like kissing every fender as you go by. You know, could you? So I want to make sure that this works, right? Because I think there's some room to edit out some spaces. How many do you have down here?
I've got 38 down here and 12 above, which is 50. So
38, and then how much at grade?
12.
Yeah, so you're kind of right on the nut, but I see 2 more spaces up against the bike storage room that you could have. And you know what? Honestly, you got plenty of retail. The retail is this deep right now. The retail could get skinnier by 25 feet. Because that's a parking car. That's a car parked. So you could do slip under parking. Right? So again, all of these things are like, all of these kinds of design decisions, you guys, in these buildings are kind of like, they're kind of like things like rocks on a scale. It's always, you're always trying to find balance and parity. Create more parking at grade to offset some of the losses I predict you're gonna need to account for in the lower level. But it's a clever lower level, and here's why. Here's the secret to the lower level. Here's the secret sauce. Are y'all listening? The secret sauce to the lower level is not only to put the ramp on the left, right, which Paige knows full well tonight, but to put parking against the ramp in the lower level so that the first drive aisle that runs north and south is some 25, 40 feet from the west property line. Cars to be able to circulate off of the ramp and into the flat realm of the lower level. Ash is here. I want to make sure that he has some time. Oops, I just went too large. I hate when I do that. Oh God. Andrew, how do I change the scale of a drawing? Oh, is it? And he was down here. The
Right corner.
say that again.
Minus,
Right here.
yeah, that doesn't.
That's it. Duh. Never mind. I'm having a brain fart here. Yeah, let's do that. I forgot it. Okay, we're good. I love the drawings, right? I love how they're color coded and they're good colors. They're clear. You already heard what I'm going to tell you about the title block. And Eric font, right? I kind of like. So I kind of cringe at this font. I mean, I'm just being completely honest with you. I just, it's not, there's not a word for this, and this is totally personal, but it's kind of like, it's not very architectural. It's kind of very engineering. And I kind of want you to up your game. I don't want you to use what you use where you work. And there's no offense intended by saying that. I want you to do the very best drawing you can. And I want you to turn your volume down now so you don't have to work where you're working. So you can come work for me, right? So you can work, you know what I'm saying? It's like try to do things that you haven't done before to ratchet up the quality of your work, because you're really close to like going there, right? I also love that, I mean, the elevations and the massing need a lot of work, and I'm totally comfortable saying that and looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to working with all of you guys on that. But I love that you have an attitude about massing and the elevations that's relating back to how you're seeing the history of Detroit. And I love good God, I love that you've got like these case studies in your elevations. I mean, this is kind of like, I'm tickled pink. I'm about ready to pee on my shoe, because every time I talk to people about design in conversations like this, it cracks me up that architects are the only culture that, you know, I can't look at a case study. I'm original, you know. Everything I make is new and fresh and innovative. It appears out of thin air, right? That's total fucking bullshit, right? Law doesn't work that way, right? Law doesn't. Music doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Poetry and literature, film, they don't work that way. Where would Kanye be, right, without a whole history of music that came before him, right? So, and I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm actually, so when you hear me talk about this theme in my advanced design studio, I rail it home. Here's the book you all need to buy. It's like $4, right? Go buy it. Don't wait for Christmas. Run to the bookstore and order it right now. Steal Like an Artist. Austin Kleon, Kleon, $4. You'll read it sitting on the toilet. It's that short and it's that easy to read, and you'll walk away going, holy crap. The whole profession of architecture is messed up because we've refused to acknowledge our own past. So that's my point. I love that you did that.
What was the name of that book?
Thank you.
You skipped
What was the name of that book?
Austin Kleon, Steal Like an Artist.
Kleon.
Kleon, yep.
I'll buy it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. You will smile and you will feel a little naughty, right? And then you'll feel liberated. As a creative, as an architect, as a designer, you'll feel liberated and you'll want to read it again. Say that? He said that. He said, steal. He said, steal. He gives you rules. And if you follow the rules, you're okay. I love that. That's all I got. You got a minute.
Okay, that's okay. I can take that. Some big conservations on the parking, although it's very smart, going one way. I feel that the 4 or 5 cars that are attached to the ramp, Josh, will not work. Simply get a perpendicular line from the very end of the parking line. Okay, get it perpendicular on the other line. That's the very end, and from the very end on the other side near the wall, make a perpendicular line on the other line, and you will see that this ratio is almost a square, which will not fit a car, which means that these 4 cars are, you know, very, very, unless you have
the aisle.
Yeah, unless you have, exactly, unless you have a less than
A Mini Cooper.
Mini Cooper Leaf, or
Yeah.
could be.
And some places, right, small car, right?
Fine.
Right, you would maybe
But-
identify
but-
this.
but-
But that's what I was saying. If you illustrate, you guys, a few cars in the parking spaces and in the drive aisles, you'll go,
Yeah,
I
get a real car.
I think I got a problem.
Yeah, get a real car and put it here. It's very hard. Sell the ramp, the car. Whoever is gonna park at the ramp in here. There's a car in front of the stair. Well, I'm not sure if this is a lucky guy to park his in there. This one here.
Yeah.
This is very, very tricky too. So you have 5 cars that are on the edge here.
Yeah, there may be in jeopardy.
yeah,
Let me ask this question about the parking.
Disadvantage.
I want to understand. I want to understand the horizontal grading to let the parking breathe. What can you repeat that again? I mean, that's what we do, right? When we're only treating the garage. But why are you doing it?
I don't understand. Say the
So
question again.
you've got, didn't you say you've got like these hatched areas that you west and on the east? What are you doing there? Why aren't you building? Why aren't you parking there?
Because I was under the impression that we had to build an open parking garage, and I thought that meant natural ventilation.
It does,
It-
but you accomplished that actually by having an open speed ramp.
I didn't derive that from the code. Maybe we can talk about that.
An enclosed parking deck needs a fresh air intake and exhaust.
Not necessarily like a natural ventilation. Like it's a good thing.
But I also think that
It's just-
if I'm wrong, and I've been wrong several times, as my wife will be hasty to tell me, you probably don't want that horizontal grating on the John R. facade, because that's the facade where the doors to the retail spaces are opening and closing, and that's where you're going to want to have something called frost porch, you guys,
Mhm.
right? Where the foundation of the sidewalk, the foundation, and that foundation doesn't heave up during freeze and thaw,
Wow.
so you can open a door over it. That's another complex conversation that we won't get into right now. But I think if you mugged back that space in the stripe, that gives you more, that mitigates his legitimate concerns. It makes you relay that thing out, but I think that works for you. But I think my assumption for this project is that because this speed ramp is open to the elements, that you will have adequate ventilation, which means that if you all assume that, and you won't fail if I'm wrong, then that means your whole footprint downstairs, Josh, gets 10 feet wider. Do you think you could solve his concerns and my concerns if you borrow that back? I think
Definitely.
right.
We need also, Josh, just again a quick thing to extend the curb around the other stair.
Yeah, we
The
talked
south-
about
yeah,
that
okay.
earlier tonight, just
Okay.
before you came here.
Okay. See a mechanical room here. Where did you put the mechanical room? I see laundry.
There's a mechanical room on the first floor.
First floor.
It's called the geothermal
this is-
pump room. I haven't decided whether I'm going to use geothermal or not.
Oh, okay.
But then on the second floor, there's the boiler and manifold room. That's also adjacent to my, drawing a blank, the shafts.
Yeah.
You know, I'm imagining that whatever is going up and down the shafts, and then it's running through the corridors.
Exactly. I'd love if you. That's preferable, not a requirement, but I love that the mechanical room attaches to the shaft here, to that vertical shaft. It will save a lot here. Why you don't have the luxury of these high ceilings? So every single bend in the duct, okay, you lose air velocity.
Right. You have
Okay.
impedance.
Yeah, it impedes the flow of the air, and you have to do these fins. I remember I had some problems with when I took the home. I took it new in 2006, and I wasn't feel happy. I wasn't feel comfortable inside. So the guy came and widened the duct from 8 inches to whatever 10, 12, something like that, and he added these fins. Okay, on the corners, on the right angle, he added this 45-degree fins to allow for more smoother, probably higher velocity air. So every time you do these, 2, 3, 4, oh my God, it reduces the efficiency of your mechanical system. This is why I highly recommend that if you have a mechanical room on the ground, just put it as near as you can to the vertical shaft.
Cool.
I do see here, that's my last thing. I do see here that the stairs here are not something.
Yeah,
it's
you
just like a.
well, the one stair in the northwest corner on level 2 doesn't have a door off of the corridor.
And there
You
is
show it
another-
on the southeast
yeah,
one, but,
and there is another plan.
and
level
so make
3.
sure you review all of the plans to make sure.
So
the doors
what is this area? The
And what's the what is the room adjacent to the stairway? Is that shaft construction as well?
That's an elevator.
That's the
Oh,
elevator.
I got my
So then you
elevator
drop,
split apart also because
Yeah.
yeah, you drop the box with the X in it and the door opening for that, right?
Okay.
We're picking nits.
Yep.
Because you gave us good drawings, right?
Yeah, it's nice.
They're nice drawings.
I love it. I love the roof garden, but I'm not sure would this be enough?
Yeah, if the space is the terrace probably needs to be smaller. You have to keep that occupant load right under 50.
Under 40,
So
yeah,
that's-
49.
And so that's why that's why I'm a little concerned. I love the idea of the work area on the roof, so I can have my beagles up there while I'm working. But that added occupant load
Mhm.
to the community space, which is supposed to be sized with the terrace to
Yeah.
keep you within the one exit.
You must be under 50.
okay.
Is your max.
Right. So that
Otherwise
room may
you-
need to migrate to another area, and I don't know. I mean, I think it would be kind of cool, like on level 2, like maybe the boiler room actually has maybe maybe that work area is just above that.
It can't be above that per my concept because then it would impede into that sloped ramp.
Yeah, I thought so. Or
you
maybe
know.
it's at the other end. Maybe it's at the other end, and it's kind of like it's like an indoor-outdoor space, the size of which isn't worrisome in terms of occupant load because you have all those egress components there.
Right.
Right. The idea is to keep the occupiable space on the roof and the roof terrace, the community room, and all of that to under 50, which is why the program brief was written that way.
Make sure also, Josh, that you have again enough space in front of the elevators. And I see here in level 2, I'm still on level 2 here, that there's like a kind of a neck here between the corridor. This kind of neck
Yeah,
here.
it looks like Fairlane Mall. It's got that 45-degree
Yeah,
angle.
and
Maybe laundry
laundry
and
yeah,
electrical.
needs to-
Maybe they just flatten out
yeah,
and you give that corridor more depth.
Yeah, very hard to maneuver any furniture here,
Sure.
Josh. Very, very hard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, we need to move on. Thanks, Josh. Wu, you're next. Wu, you're not here tonight.
Yes. I thought we didn't do the on-campus stuff tonight, so I received an email very late.
Okay. Okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, my test is very
Hold on.
small.
I gotta fire it up. Hold on.
Okay.
All righty. Are you ready to begin?
Yeah, so my test is very small, so maybe you need to zoom in a little bit.
We did. Yeah,
Oh.
but I'm going to yell at you about that, right?
Sorry about that.
I can't wait till you all get old and need bifocals. And then you all start teaching, like I'm sure you will, and then you meet a younger version of you guys. And then tell me about that experience. Okay, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay. So the first page is the basement level, and which include the 37 spaces parking, and with 2 ADA parking area and 1 trash truck. And if we go to the next page, is the level 1, and I lay out the setback here and the retail spaces and mechanical rooms and exercise rooms and laundry here and locker rooms and bicycle storage. And also include 13 parking spaces at the top and the bottom, and including the loading space for the retail. And we go to the next page is for the level 2. And we have, it's all about the units. There are 8, 9 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedrooms units, and the terrace space. And the next page is the level 3 and level 4. It's all about the units, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. They all face to the store south and west. And the next page is about the unit detail layout. The left is the 1 bedroom, and the right is the 2 bedrooms. And the next page is about the level 5, and the only difference is about at the bottom. It was 2 bedrooms units at the level 3 and level 4, and at the level 5, you only have 1 unit of the 2 bedrooms. So the other one, I cut out 1 room for the roof water tank. So I can explain at the next page, which is the roof plan. The roof plan include the white lined roof stage, 3 stage here. It's about the I don't know if you know, the Sidwell France is a case study. They use the wetland to clean the water and recycle the wastewater and use the recycled water to flush the toilet and wash the clothes. And at the right hand, there are the photovoltaic system and the wind energy system. So we go to the next page is the section, and you can see the at the top is the section of the wetland recycled water circulation. So from the top to the end, the wastewater go through 3 stages and become clean and to the final recycled water tank. So the which at the right and the top, I list the clothes washers and a shower can be recycled, and the recycled water can be used in flush the toilet and clothes washers. And at the left and top, there's the plan show where the section is. And we go to the next page is another section, and show you the stairs section and the trash area and the elevator here. And the next page is the south elevation, show you the shadows and the solid and the void. And the next page is the west elevation. And go next is to perspective of the model, and I mark the north and west. Where are they? And for at your right hand, there the light is set up still for the Detroit 4 p.m. So you can see the shadows on the building. Is at the corner there's some unit, and at the first and first level, no, level 2. It's a little bit block the sun until the 4 p.m. So go to the last page is another 2 different perspective models. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. What's the system here on your elevation here before we move to the last page? The last page. This is a curtain wall, glass wall, what? The last 2 perspective?
Yeah, it's the perspective for the model.
Yeah. What I'm asking is this a curtain wall, a glass wall? It seems to me like it's
the curtain wall.
Curtain wall?
Yeah. So I'm thinking, from my plan, you can see the corridors is very wide. So, and I separate, use them a short wall to block the entry of the unit. So separate the corridor to 2 spaces. So people can talk to their neighbors at the right hand. From the curtain wall here. Create more spaces for the residents.
So, so there's the first thing I noticed is and the first thing I always look for in this kind of project is do we have a way out, right? Do we have a way out if there's a fire? And I'm concerned that along John R. at the south end, that it's a dead end corridor. And so that would be like a real big miss if it was December and you still didn't have that stairway there. So you're probably saying, oh shoot, how did I miss that, right? So you didn't, because I told you about it. But like, so what I think you need to do is sacrifice or relocate the 2-bedroom, which is unit like 628, for example, or yeah, 628 or whatever it is. I guess that's the area. I'm sorry, 628. Yeah, I don't know that 628 works as a 2-bedroom, by the way. You'd have to prove that, but I think you did actually. But in any event, I think you need a stairway there, and I think you can look at that end unit on all of the floors and introduce an egress stair, a fire-rated egress stair, and solve my concern. And the only other hardship, right, when you do that is that the 1,570 square foot retail space, right, gets a little smaller because you're going to have a stairway there at the south end. You follow what I just said, Wu?
Yes. So I checked the building code. So at the level 2, you can see the text I typed down. So from the bottom, the 2-bedroom, the very long distance from here to the egress is about 220 feet. So with the sprinkler, and I saw the code is 250. So
Yeah,
It's not-
so that's a true, that is a correct code statement, but it's a slightly different
It's a dead
aspect of the
end.
code, right? So you actually, gentlemen, Josh, I'm looking at you. Eric, I'm looking at you. What is the dead end distance that we're allowed in the R2 occupancy? Can you chime in on that?
50 feet with sprinkler.
Yeah, so 50 feet. So that means that I can walk down a corridor for 50 feet and discover that I don't have a choice, but I have 50 feet to return back to where I was. And when I return back to that moment, I have a choice to go left or right or straight ahead to get to that exit. So,
okay.
so what you were quoting is travel distance, but what we're talking about is the dead end corridor. And so you measure that from the egress component itself. You measure that from the door of the stairway, not as the crow flies, but as a true path. And that's how you apply it. So if, to talk faster and not beat a dead horse, if you introduce a stairway at the south end, right, of that pair of bars, it works, and it only impacts the retail space by a little bit. That's the first thing. The other thing that you did that I think is kind of interesting is you created a first floor that has what architects like to call porosity, right? So we can actually move, right? We can move through the mass, right, of the first floor and still be outside. And that's kind of an interesting notion. That allows for the site and the things in the site to connect to the street and to the context beyond. So I fancy that idea. I like that idea. But I also think that the thing that you could maybe like reward us for, if we do have the courage to walk off of John R. into that car park, is to give us a room that we would walk to, right? So you've got a locker room. Maybe the exercise room is that room. I don't know. Make it a kind of like a more public and transparent room. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. The last thing for you, I have a problem parking in the front yard. So all of those spaces that you have on Alfred Street, I think are a problem for me. I talked a little bit about that with Paige this evening, how she was introducing the jump ramp, the speed ramp to the deck off of Alfred. And so I was like climbing all over her back about a curb cut for two-way traffic. You've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or so curb cuts for a big swath. And we're going to see like the diaper of the car. We're going to see the butt end of the car sticking out in a residential district. It's a little too informal. And I think it kind of breaks the rules of the game of urbanism, responsible urbanism. It's a clever idea, but I think architects have to like be kind of the gatekeepers for what is right in historical districts. And that's what I'm trying to encourage you to do here. So what I've suggested is that area where you've got that gap between those bars, that's really a good place for you to park. And how many spaces do you have downstairs?
37.
Yeah. So I think you could build parking where you have the note that says 37. There.
Yeah,
You could do you could do perpendicular parking that runs north and south at the end of the ramp. Just expand the footprint of the lower level. And I bet you get your difference.
Do you mean the under the ramp?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Expand the north wall near the ramp northward 20 feet and put perpendicular parking there. 9 feet, 20 feet, 9 feet by 20 feet. I don't know what the length of that thing is. You're going to get several. You're going to get several spaces.
Okay.
Just test that. That's all I got. Oh, I mean, I could talk a lot longer. I know I can't, but I guess I would add or close with I love the detail. I love that you jump deep into the unit layouts. And I love that the unit layout design is a kind of a module or an element that is then arrayed, right, and created, and it ends up creating kind of the architectural, sculptural vocabulary of the building, which gives rise, right, to a very interesting kind of model, which needs a lot of work, but it's like you're really moving it forward. You might be missing the community space on the roof.
Community space, where?
In the terrace. I can't read all of the notes very easily.
Yeah. So you mean the level 2 terrace on the roof?
On the roof.
Yeah.
Take a look at the program brief.
So,
But I mean, that's all work.
Sorry, you're frozen. What did you say?
I said that is all workable. You can add that space on the roof. You've got a lot of agenda, the clever stormwater management strategy for the roof, but we need a community space for the
there is
tenants on the roof.
Yeah,
And I couldn't discern that.
Yeah, I marked the sitting area on the roof. Maybe it's too small, the test. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then I just didn't see it. Go ahead, Ash.
Okay. You have here, Wu, you have to provide some relationship. I'm in the first floor now, level 1 between the stairs, elevators, and your vestibule. Okay, your north side here, and you have, I think, to separate the retail from the stair. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you with me here?
Yeah.
So yes, you do have a nice probably lobby. I'm not sure where your elevator will open at. If this is an elevator, right?
Yeah.
I assume that's next to the stair. Okay. So you need to determine where your elevator will open. Okay, in different floors, because I see it's kind of tight here.
Yeah, it's open to the right.
To the right. Okay. So how about the stair? So this stair will open to right of way. It's not going to open to the vestibule. This stair.
Stair is open to the right too. Yeah.
No, in this case, it can't. I'm talking about the upper stair, the north stair on level 1. Where does this open to?
On level 1, it's open to actually. There is maybe it's the star. The stair is out of the retail space. It's my mistake. Yeah.
So either to make a connection here, like here, for example,
Yeah.
that's a connection,
Yeah.
or to open a door to the right of way, almost to the curb outside.
Like in some of the stairs that Josh showed, I think you need to show containment and the openings in your stairs, you guys, so it's clear to us that you understand the sort of route, the egress scenario and the route that it takes. The solution that you have at the south stair elevator combo is good because they're all kind of linked, and the way you've drawn it obviates that route. But where you've got it on the north, it's not as clear?
I would, if you're gonna keep these parking, I'm not sure if it's better for you to have a door immediately after the elevator on the south stair here. This is long ways.
And I'm still struggling with why you guys, right? Why do you guys have elevators in two different places?
Open this way to me. So this is here.
So that I think at some point, the folks like you, Wu, who have them separated, are going to have to really like work hard on me to convince me to have that epiphany that you're right, that this is the right thing to do. And again, just so you hear me out, because I know I've said this a bazillion times, to be near the lobby, right? And because everyone that's going to come to the building, whether it's the Domino's guy, the caterer, the mover, they're going to pull up front and they're going to discharge and collect, right? They're going to deliver Amazon boxes. They're going to deliver your pizzas. They're going to like deliver your furniture through the front door. And so that's why I think they need to be there, so that one elevator can be for passengers, while you bring Carmen and her family into with her furniture into the elevator right next to it, using the tall boy elevator.
You have to tie also the vestibule with the stair. I think just in case the elevator doesn't work, people have to look for a stair. Usually look for a stair next to it. So,
well, I think also that if she has 3 stairs, then this one could be a communicating stair for some of that, or just be reworked.
Because that's the only one. Yeah, exactly. Because that's the only one connected to the vestibule.
Right.
So the Domino's guy, Amazon guy, just in case for any reason the stair doesn't work, people automatically look for where's the stair, and try to scan the space around them to find a stair to climb to their desired destinations. So you have to, I think you have to connect this specific north stair to
okay.
This will contradict with the crash. I don't know how you're gonna solve this, but overall it's good, but there are some tiny details that are crucial here that needs to be addressed.
But I would say that the scheme you presented tonight is really close.
Yep.
Right, compared to where you were last week, Wu? Right, remember where I freaked out on you about last week's scheme?
Yeah, I know.
So this scheme, I think, is a lot more believable, and it's moved really, I think, in the right direction. Okay? All right, thanks. We need to move on. I think Andrew's next. Andrew's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting an A just because he's here. I'm just letting you know that. He's like, damn, I didn't know that.
Want me to present that?
Right. Sure. Too large? You corrupt my computer, I'm going to kill you. So I'm going to put Andrew here. I'm going to go Mikeless. What's going on?
Is it too big of a file?
Oh my God.
Dude. Okay, there we are. Oh. Okay. Hold on. Can you turn on your camera so everyone can see you?
Oh yeah. That's,
Duh.
and are you gonna have your mic on? Then?
I have mine off.
No, it's on right now.
No, I think I turned it off.
Yeah, I saw you.
Right. Okay, so the first page is the underground parking. And then the room on the bottom right and the top left, that's either going to be the generator or the storage. I'm kind of aiming for the top left since the bottom right is like the main entrance, so it'll be hard to get that space ventilated. So the next is the ground floor plan. It's kind of what you said and set the building back to create that open area space on the top left for just community and that kind of connecting to that street. And then there's the parking there, so the trash for the trash room, the retail, that's about it for that. The next sheet, it's nothing really changed on those from last week, from the typical rooms, and then the two-person rooms. So for the fifth floor plan, I had extra space to work with, so I added balconies to those rooms, so they're a bit larger. And then there's also the community room in the top, and then the open garden area space. And I put it there for good view to Detroit, because it's behind that building that's just south of ours. And then for the roof plan, it's just a green roof over the fifth floor. And then that space where the garden would be open and the community space would also be open. And then the next shows a section of all the roof heights and all that.
Yeah, miracle might happen.
And then the next is just a section through the building itself. I haven't put labels on it yet though. And then the model is just showing the different elements of the building. The light blue is the regular regular apartments, and then the darker it gets, the bigger the apartment is for two-person or that. And then the red is all the egress with stairs and elevators. And then for the east view, what you said last crit with kind of changing it up, adding more to the design, I was trying to figure out a way to either get around the big building we have to the south. So I was just kind of experimenting with different ways to either like add balconies or kind of extrude the surface of the building. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet with that. So there's some kind of ideas I had last minute.
I like them.
Let's see this.
Yeah, I like the bubble wrap one.
Yeah.
Right, the multi-balcony one. Okay, are you all set?
Yep.
So let's go to 5. The fifth floor. The fifth floor has. Well, first of all, I like the drawings. I remember that you were the one that had the curbs and sidewalks and the property line and all of that stuff on all the plans. So like I love how like just from an Adobe file, right? We can toggle through and you know, each drawing is in the same place on the sheet, right? You might have to turn your mic off.
Oh yeah. Okay.
How you can toggle through the drawings and see that the elevator is exactly in the same place, right? It doesn't move a little bit. It's like, so I like the discipline of the way you've crafted the drawings. I think that's really good. But I think what may help the massing and what will need to happen for the fifth floor, if the community room stays where you've got it, is that you'll need to engage that stairway at the west,
okay,
at the north and the west, because you have sleeping rooms upstairs that will naturally require 2 means of egress, right? And so the one to the south where you got the 36 right where you got the Z room,
yeah,
that will be a that's the one stair, but you're going to need to connect the other rooms to that other stair. Okay. So what what could happen is that if you're committed to having the community room on the 5th floor, then you might want to consider putting it on the west side of that stairway.
Okay.
And then moving more product, more residential product, to the hard corner. You know what I mean by the hard corner, right?
Yeah.
At Andrew, and I'm a golfer, so I keep calling it St. Andrew, but it's you know, Andrew and Edmund and John R. Right?
Yeah.
So move the premium room there, maybe the 2-person room up there. I'm skeptical of the Z room. So assuming everything stays just the way it's drawn and the Z room stays the way it's drawn, that's a room you're going to want to show how that works in terms of like kitchens and bedrooms and closets and all that stuff. Because I think it's a really interesting room.
I like the Z room.
But like, right, I'm kind of like, you know, maybe you call it the Zap, right? The Zap is a Z apartment. But I kind of like knowing what I know about these things and like knowing how disciplined these layouts have to be. That's going to be a ball buster to lay out. So maybe that's terrace.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's not a great view because you're looking at that other building, but it's going to get light in the morning and it's going to get light in the afternoon. And maybe it's a Z terrace, right? So that's kind of interesting. So that's maybe something to think about. So the large single room actually may be the one that gets the Z terrace or some of that terrace. So that may help the mass. I love how you're thinking about, like, so you all have kind of like tonight, you all have a chassis, right? You all have a thing. A lot of you have like these fat, heavy, horizontal things because that's where you are. I understand that. Just to like start to offset that with being disciplined about the vertical. But I like how you're concerned about the massing from a textural perspective, from a daylighting and shade and shadow perspective, from a use perspective in terms of balconies, in terms of windows and walls and those kinds of things. And being concerned about those things gives rise to these design options, right? So I think that's important. How many spaces do you have downstairs?
Parking spaces?
Yes, sir.
I didn't write that down. It all comes out to 50. I know that. So whatever you mind.
So are all the spaces on the main level superfluous? Are they extra?
No, they're not extra.
They're not extra. So I need all of that real estate for the party.
Yeah.
You really need to kind of polish this into real stairs, real, opening, Andrew, so that we can, kind of more comment on where the doors open, or where do you have curbs here, for example, in the garage or in the basement to protect people. Just make sure that you're not, like, by doing that, canceling 1 or 2 spaces. So you need really to add more detail. I understand that this conceptual phase, but I appreciate as you go by. This is not, if it works this time, it's not going to work from now on.
And I think down by the south stair, that sort of Le Mans turn, that chicane turn,
that's the one.
That may be nasty. Like again, if I'm buying you a drink or you're buying me a drink at Grey Ghost next door, I'm gonna have a hard time doing that thing, right? So you may lose a space there. I mean, you can have those things, but you may lose spaces when you take into account like the barrier-free spaces, columns, right?
Yeah.
And
just
to give the footprint, right?
You have to think about your structural module. This is our next lab assignment.
That's right.
Module 2.
That's right.
Just to start doing some structural module from now on. I'm going to issue the assignment.
So what is your retail number? 2,400, 25? So you're right there.
Yeah.
The lobby's pretty big. I don't know that
Vestibule. Oh.
That's like the airlock, I guess. Right. I don't know that you can make. I mean, part of what I said to Josh was like make the mast, the leg along John R. make that shallower.
Okay.
Right, so that you could park against it. Right. But that you know, it's just kind of like you push on like a balloon, right? You push on dough, it goes in another direction. So if you put like pressure on the west facade of like laundry, exercise, and bike storage, they may squirt up to the open area under the overhang, right?
Yeah.
So, but doing that, right, may allow you to park right where you put the pressure. It loses some of that space under the overhang, but you know that's kind of like, again, like we were talking right with Paige, right? That's kind of like the fun stuff, right? That's kind of like you have to make those creative decisions, and as an architect, you have to evaluate like the credibility of that move or the importance of that decision. So I think like do another overlay, right, Andrew, and make sure that that works. Also, you guys, when you're parking, this is going to kill you. Right? I know it's going to kill you when you hear this. Whenever you're parking, you have to have barrier-free spaces at every parking condition. So if you have 2 floors of parking, like you have at grade and you have it below, you have to have ADA parking at grade and below, right? One of those spaces needs to be van accessible. So on the site at the grade level, that's the optimal, the ideal place to put the van accessible space. Maybe downstairs, you know, 8 and 5 and 8, or I don't know how many you do, 2. All 2, yeah, all together. So, but let's let Eric and Joshua double check what I just said, right? Because this is actually one parking facility. Maybe what I just said is wrong. So let them weigh in on it. All right.
Like right now?
Nice, clean, spare drawings. I like that. But now they need to get some like meat on the bone. That's what Ash is talking about: wall thickness, door swings, and that sort of thing. But I love these kind of drawings right now because they're all consistent and they're all like revealing, touching on all the things that we asked you to touch on today.
Still the entrance in front, the lobby in front of the elevators, Andrew, still to take the same width of the corridor, it's not
quite enough. So what I would do,
maneuvering.
Yeah, I take that 30 by 20 room that's directly east of the elevators. I'd compress it, and then I'd I'd push the balloon, right, and the balloon would go up to the one that's running north and south. All of the room I just moved, touch it. So I wouldn't have this corridor that would lead out to a window on the John R. facade. I'd grab that real estate because I can make money off of that. Right? And that gives you more room in front of the elevators. It allows one demising wall to separate those 2 end units, and it kind of solves the problem. That's all I got.
Okay. I don't see. You have a mechanical room here, Andrew? Mechanical, electrical.
I think I forgot to put one in because I put a note of that earlier.
Yeah, and you have to have like Josh here, vertical imagination where your vertical shaft.
I would probably put it in the storage room.
Would go. Okay. So okay, that's reasonable. And shoot here is spelled wrong. I think it's CHUTE, not shoot SHOOT.
You must be a hunter. You must be ready to go hunting
I'm
in
so
November.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. PhD people spend their lifetime editing their dissertations for a year editing dissertations. Sorry. I'm done.
I guess we haven't seen we haven't seen like a SketchUp model that's color coded yet for the massing, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate the the legibility, right, of the program. I like that you're color coding these things like with the circulation. But for me, the most interesting thing is your sort of like energy and desire to think of the solid and void opportunities in these things. So I think this is a real important moment for you to like really push on that. And unless you're MVRDV, you probably won't have a big ass cantilever along Alfred Street like you got it. So
Yeah.
There'll probably be some structure there to pick that up. Yeah. Unless you're doing some like filler truss, right? It's letting that float. You know, and talking about the massing and the sort of interest that you have in it, maybe let's look at the section. Maybe by like doing sectional overlays and thinking about what happens when you push and pull, right? You compress and expand on the section as a three-dimensional figure, right? Thinking of balconies, thinking of enclosed spaces, thinking of outdoor spaces, maybe thinking of how they stack. Maybe there's ways that the exterior can be the manifestation of that line of sort of design interrogation, that line of design inquiry. That could be interesting. Okay. I need to take a quick pit stop, so I'll be back in a moment. Why don't we resume in about in 10 minutes? I think we just have a couple more. Alex? Yeah, Alex and Lynn. Okay. Watch your step if you walk this way. Carmen's trying to tell us. How are you, Carmen?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. Perfect. Are you doing your graduate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked in any other place, so.
When do you start?
So I'm done with undergrad in December, so I'll probably start right after that.
were you here for the first benchmark?
I was not.
Yeah,
I was, I
I'm
think
sorry.
in Mexico.
I've talked to you so much that,
Yeah.
sort of before and after class, so, thank you for coming.
No.
That's awesome.
Finally,
I should have like
got in
shook
a
your
little
hand and hugged you or
earlier
whatever,
at
but I
work.
didn't. I thought we were old friends by now. Maybe that's what it was, right? Andrew's been here twice now.
You did not to your office. Are you still teaching in the BIM class? Who told you should take it over the summer?
I teach it in the fall. I teach them for building systems, which is basically the similar of what we're gonna do.
That's the one I wanted to
The
take, but it was full.
Structural,
Yeah.
mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
I should have taken it before. But it was already
It
full,
will, it
so,
will, it will help
yeah.
a little bit, but it's just the concept. We'll go over it very quick. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think we'll talk later, but I think I'm gonna need some help with construction. So my background, so I graduated from the University of Mexico, so everything is concrete. There, it's just different. So I
Sure,
will
if
have
you want to
some
go
questions.
for concrete here, you're gonna give me a hard time, but that's fine.
Yeah, I do know concrete, but I do wanna learn something else, so,
You want to learn steel?
yeah, steel.
Okay, great.
Here we go.
Who's Alex's last name?
Steinke.
She is this one. Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Oh, I can't hear you.
I said good, how are you guys? No?
Can you turn up your?
Yeah.
That's better.
That better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think it's just my volume.
Okay. Or maybe you just have to become an opera singer, just like really push the air out.
Enunciate really loudly.
Yes.
That might be it.
Okay. So we have
Right.
we have your stuff up and we're ready to go.
Okay, cool. I'll get started then. So I want to start off how I present my project with the graphic you saw last week. Well, not last week, but yeah, last week. And I added a little bit more to it, but for people that didn't see it or didn't realize what it was, I was just doing a really quick site analysis of the area and the different hotspots around it and the heavier traffic noise coming at it and the different views from around the building, especially with the 8-story apartment building right next to us, and then its relationship with like the Jaquinder Cut over in Midtown and kind of the accessibility of the site in terms of location. So that's that first plate. And if you just go to the next slide, I started analyzing the opportunities that I saw within the site. So it's a quieter neighborhood, so the noise is reduced, which I think gives a lot of opportunity for pedestrian traffic and traversability across the site, especially with the strong residential presence within this whole area and the really low traffic volumes. Semcock has it around like 5,000 cars a day at most. So I think that like focusing on making it walkable would be beneficial for both the community and the residents living in the mixed use as well as the retail space. So that was one of the prominent factors in my analysis of what I was looking at. So go to the next slide after that. This was my blocking diagram that I changed but updated from last session. I started color blocking out the floor plans as well as my project statement that I attached to it. But the whole premise about where I really wanted to go with this project was using a core atrium space that runs throughout the middle of the building and connects all the floors through the center of it, and around this atrium space are all the amenities for the residents, which keeps it more intimate and enclosed, but at the same time exposes the activity on the outsides of the building as well, which I'll get into in a minute. But that was like the general driver of how I was gonna orient all my space around this atrium, and then I ended up including an arcade through the front first floor as well. So with these concept color blocking diagrams I have over the next 3 slides, I kind of want to run through like the less diagrammatic and more technical floor plans later on. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through these. You can go to the next one and then go one more. The section I think illustrates my concept in its color blocking form the best. So it'll be the 5th plate. And basically I bookend the atrium space of the residential on both sides with a terrace up top on the roof, and then the vertical circulation stairs on both sides, which you can't see one side because it's cutting through the middle of the building, but just focusing on using this atrium as a division between the 2 spaces was the larger concept. If you go to the next plate, this is a further back site view of the first floor of my building in context of the buildings around it. And you can see the arcade going through the entire site. I have it like as a pathway. I envision it as some kind of pathway or green space that cuts through the site, as well as some additional on-ground parking, which I'll go through in depth in a moment. You can go to the next slide. This is a quick schematic 3D model that I did when I was first looking at the views and the circulation that I wanted across the space. So the green are like the strong axes, I guess, that I created with both the arcade and the atrium going through the building. And then the views I wanted coming out of both the retail in the bottom, and those bars are going to be like balconies. I haven't done any of the sculpting of the walls yet, but just kind of diagramming out where my views want to be and how my circulation generally wants to be. And then the next slide, I'll start walking through the plan. So this is the lower level, and I have it the ramp comes off the alley and it goes down, so it's 25 feet, and then it's a one-way from there, and it goes all the way around. And I have 50 parking spots down here with the stairs, and then 2 elevators side by side. And then those middle boxes are the locker storage areas for each of the people living within the building. And then the next plate would be my first level. And that again has the arcade going down the middle and the retail on either side, bookending it with the lobby. The vertical circulation with the stairs and the elevators attached to the lobby with the mail, with additional parking outside that. And on the other side, the more private facility stuff like the bicycle storage, the dog washing, all of your electrical generator amenities as well. And then 3 units that I envision to be kind of like townhomes on that first floor as well. The next plate, you go up a story. The next really 3 floors are very consistent in how they're laid out. I have the atrium in the middle with either the community space or the laundry room, which you'll see in a moment, or whatever kind of residential amenity is attached to each floor are always in that same spot. And then I have 1 bedrooms going all the way around with 1 2-bedroom unit. Then on the next floor up, there's 2 2-bedroom units on each of the hard corners with 1 bedrooms going all the way around. And again, the amenity, laundry room and lounge ADA toilet area right off the atrium, so you get lots of natural light. And then basically the same thing with the next one, but with the exercise room attached to it. And then the top floor, if you go the one after that, has again another laundry unit, because I figured they didn't want to be going up and down the stairs or up and down the elevators too much, carrying around laundry. And then the next play after that has the top floor, the roof plan, which is very general right now. I haven't sculpted it out yet, but I was just trying to play with maybe outdoor garden, solar panel kind of space with an atrium. The play after that is a section. You can start seeing the atrium go through the middle of this space with all the windows going all the way around it. And then the kind of cantilevering, well, it doesn't have structure in it right now, so it won't be literally floating, but the driveway over by the additional parking on the right side, and then the arcade on the left. And then in the next slide, and then the next one after that, they're both two different 3D views of, again, the massing model that I've started. And that is where I'm at right now.
Perfect timing. Can you hear the bells? It's
Yeah,
Christmas
I was timing myself, so.
Yeah. Christmas in September. Okay. So go into the deep end in this project because of the atrium, and it's not for a weak swimmer. And I hope that you don't mind swimming in salt water. You're living in Florida, so I suppose that's okay.
I don't mind it at all. I'm a good swimmer.
So atriums are a ball buster from fire suppression, from heat gain, and all sorts of things like that, right? So for smoke. And so you're going to have to rely on Eric and Joshua, and you're going to have to look at their work and see if they have any commentary on that. Need to help you sort of look at that more carefully. And certainly where you are in Orlando, you may want to look at the building code yourself there and begin to understand that it's its own beast. It has its own chapter, and it's the requirements of it are pretty immense, right? So I want you to know that I'm concerned about that. Not that you're doing it. Not that I don't like atriums. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, you know, you're to be appreciated for sort of trying to take on this challenge, but you can't just like put a roof on it and call it an atrium. You have to understand what you're representing here as a design concept. So that's the first kind of, it's late, I can't remember all the words I'm supposed to use. Warning. It's not a warning, it's kind of an admonishment or kind of an observation that I'm going to be continually looking at as, you know, the semester evolves. That's the first thing. That's the hard news. The second thing is I love these drawings. I love the color massing and section drawings. I love this plate that is the plan drawings, the concept drawings. This is such an easy thing to do, and it's such a useful tool to begin your work with, everyone. They're beautiful drawings. Remember, I was talking about Janelle's drawings. They're beautiful. This is a plate that you could put a frame around it, and I'd buy that from you. I'd buy that drawing, right? And so, like, but it's not just that you made a beautiful or a pretty drawing. It is a way of distilling the idea of your work into something that is reducible to these very simple moves. So spot on for that. I love how you thought about it all the way through, from the basement plan to the first floor plan to the upper plans, and even to the section. Yes, you have to think of the idea manifesting itself in section, because it's not, as I told you earlier, it's not, this class is not just about, mixed use is not just about stacking things horizontally. This class is helping you think about mixed use buildings in terms of threading things through them vertically, and in the context of Brush Park, thinking about the architectural context, right, as a vertical cue, and recognizing and resolving that. So that's terrific. Kind of feel like since these kinds of drawings are really easy to do, kind of like on the site plan that you've got, that really kind of bare bones, you know, dull architectural CAD drawing of the site plan. It's a great drawing. But like the next drawing after that is like where you take the colorful lipstick that you got and you draw those arrows in the arcade and residential, maisonette, and you animate that drawing so that we can look at the floor plan, the site plan, and go, oh yeah, the ideas that she talked about in the color blocking drawings are migrating even into the technical drawings. And I wrote that down, and then bam, you went right to the view and circulation drawing, which is one of those boring massing drawings, right? Boring because it's still in progress. But you animated it with that, oh, she just froze. Are you still there, Alex? Can I get an audio? Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
so you took that kind of dull, lifeless 3D drawing, and you did what I just said, right? You animated it to help us see the idea in it. So this is very important for an audience like Christoph, right? Looking at this for the first time. Maybe there's others coming along. But it's important for us to see it that way, and it's important for us to see that you see it that way. Okay, technical drawing, lower level. I think you also need to draw the cars and show them turning. I want to make sure that you're doing 20-foot aisles when you have two-way traffic, and that you're doing 9-foot by 20-foot deep spaces, 9-foot wide, or and 20-foot deep. I think that you're going to lose 2 spaces down at the bottom where it says room, because I don't think you're going to have the radius there to turn. And I think if you push the 2 lockers together on the left, like you did in the middle, you get a little bit more room by the stairway. And similarly, the parking spaces that are separated by a walkway or whatever, just let them kiss, because that gives you more drive aisle depth, right? Right, so I would do things like that in the lower level. And the drawing, you need to show the ramp, you need to show that little stair cut kind of graphic that we use for stairs. This is tiny, this is really, really small. I love the arcade, but it's not really an arcade because it doesn't like start here and end at a flower garden, but it could.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
Okay, so there's kind of like maybe you need to make a commitment about what happens at that residential property line, and you have kind of what Mark Nikita would call a terminating vista, right? But I think the arcade's too big because it's tall and it's also wide. So I'm intrigued with this sort of Frank Lloyd Wright kind of candy cane route that one has to take from John R. through the arcade and then circle back to the vestibule. But like, what if the vestibule actually was on the north wall of the lobby and stuck out like a mump, right? Or like a muscle, and kind of beckoned you to come to it. And it was glass, and and it would compress the width of the arcade, and it would give you like an intermediate destination, right? Like a foreground element to the flower bed, water feature, whatever you're doing at the other end. So letting the lobby kind of extend in the north-south axis might make a little bit make a little bit of sense. Let's see. Also, you're one of the people that are doing these residential units on Alfred. I love that. That's kind of nifty. These are kind of like maisonettes, right? They're kind of their own thing. You should look that word up. And so they're going to probably have their front door on Alfred, right? They're going to have a coat and tie, right? They're going to have a handshake, right? So they're going to have a stoop. They're going to have bay windows or whatever, right? So they're going to have a little garden. So they're going to like reach out and engage the street. So your next iteration of these drawings needs to show that. And I'm kind of thinking that the arcade idea, right, happens yet again. And you slide the maisonettes to the west and create a north-south alley that somehow maybe links with the new lobby that I just told you about, so that you can see the lobby from Alfred as well, right? Just little things like help to resolve, right, the geometries and the sort of bigger idea for you.
I would love that she does the atrium kind of dash lines on the first floor so that you can project where.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love
does the atrium end at the or begin at the second floor,
I don't know
or
where
does it actually? Can I get?
I wanted to like blur the line so it started below the second floor somewhere.
So then there's a glass chimney
from the section.
Right? There's a glass chimney that has a cap or a roof, and it sits down on the ground floor, and so you got to like drive around it or walk through it, or so show us the footprint to see if it's in play. Otherwise, then maybe it has to start on the second floor, and there's possibly no imprint of the atrium on the ground floor. You have to like think of that in section.
Right now,
right?
There is room for it. I brought it all the way down. It goes through the vestibule, so it's a glass, so it lets light into the vestibule, but there is space for it all the way down right now.
Okay, Alex, you're going to need to draw that, because I hear you, but I'm kind of doubting you. Not because I'm doubting you personally. I'm doubting the ability that the geometries will work out that way. I'm a pain in the ass to work with. Just so you all know.
Good. I'll show you.
So, and I think if you draw more of the line work, right, of where the additional parking is, where there's stripes and where there's curbs, that'll make it more compelling. I finally think, and the other reason that I think this is compelling is that the trash room is kind of also impinging on the atrium, the glass chimney coming down, and so maybe the trash room really needs to be where the mail room is, but the mail room also needs to be up there where it is. So kind of reconciling like pesky stuff like garbage trucks and backing a car out of that top space and getting out onto the alley. All of that stuff has line work associated with it. You kind of have to draw that out. You're missing a line on the second level between bedroom the two one-bedrooms at the hard corner. And
I didn't see that. I don't know where it went.
It's all right. And then I think, you probably are interested, like Wu did, to understand your units, right? So I think you want to draw those. I don't think you have any like glaring problems with the units, but you have a one-bedroom, you have a two-bedroom, and then you have something called a room. So is that like a studio? And so are there three types that are there three sort of sleeping typologies that you've got?
I just think I forgot to label that guy.
Okay. And then just to kind of like, just to kind of clarify, I felt like the community room and the terrace needed to be on the roof. That's the way I wrote it in the program. And that's done. Now you're sitting there thinking, oh, I didn't do that. And now you're saying, wah, wah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how do I do that? So I don't know, right? How do I do that, right? So I'm thinking, like, how can that chimney of glass, the atrium, actually, maybe if I do put the community room up there, because that's where I want to have the barbecues and like birthday parties, because good Lord, when you're my age, every birthday kind of counts, right? So you celebrate them. So like that's the place where you do that, right? On the roof, right? So how can all of this stuff like commingle? So this is you're kind of at a good point in the project, but you have some not serious problems or challenges. You have some interesting design challenges ahead of you to pull this off. you raise the bar, right? You increase what we would call in classes like this the degree of difficulty. You did that. I didn't tell you to do the atrium. You did that. But when you do that, you have to solve it, right? So within the solution, there might be other problems that are created, but I'm telling you to bail on the atrium. I'm saying, let's go with it, but let's understand it, right? Let's make it work. That's all I got.
Alex, I need you to look at these trash rooms in terms of, again, how you're gonna collect this into this room, or as long as you don't have trash chutes, how you're gonna solve this? In other words, I don't know how you're gonna make the vertical connection, or you're gonna order people to bring their trash and throw it at this room. So you have to think about it as well. Yeah, mechanical generator, electrical. This could be your mechanical room. You could do it in the basement as well, if you have a place. But I don't see it here. Again, as I mentioned to everybody, you need to provide a vertical shaft. Here or there, I would prefer one or two throughout the floor plan, just to think about the mechanical in the future. You need to think about your structure module, how it will affect, as long as you kind of fill the whole site with your building and start, kind of taking chunks out, the arcade, the atrium. So this will play, be players in the game for the structural system, which will affect greatly your parking garage. I don't see a problem here so far in the garage, till after you put, for me, some of these columns, which you will lose probably 10% of, at least 10-15 of these spots. What else? Vestibule, as Mark mentioned, again, it does have like this kind of a 180 degree from John R. Like go and then go back. That's not an optimum welcoming vestibule in this case. What else? You have here the stairs going.
Well, maybe there would have to be
this dog wash thing. I would suggest another door on the corridor that connects the dog wash meter bicycle. There should be probably another door in there. And as yeah, as Mark mentioned, is this allowed? You're the boss.
Yeah, I mean, all I was saying was that the Maisonette, that they could slide, right, and that might clean up. That also might clean up.
Are these allowed in the first floor?
Yeah, they are. I just think that they should be kind of, the stuff that's south of the Maisonettes is all kind of like back of house stuff, and you've got facilities guys, with, I'm not saying anything wrong about tattoos, but facilities guys with tattoos, smoking cigarettes, and you know what I mean. They're not your, they don't live with you, but they're kind of like right there with you. So like augmenting the separation between the back of house stuff for the overall building and the Maisonettes,
I don't see that.
Is sort of what I am encouraging. I mean, I think what you're trying to promote is a back door for the Maisonettes. That's kind of interesting, but maybe that's not necessary. Maybe if you do an arcade between the one bedroom and the retail, there's a side door right there, and maybe there's a side door on the west unit, and maybe you find a way to get to the back corridor for just the middle unit, for example. Maybe that's acceptable to you.
Do these play a role, Alex, in the number of rooms that Mark is asking you?
I think they do. I think I think you need those three.
Do you need
to hit your 50?
You need them? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, oh, just convert it into a retail, do the
Right.
corridor here, and you're all set. You're
because
my girl.
retail and these backup house things is they are copacetic, right?
It's not. They will be noisy. You need probably to add a barrier here between like green air. You cannot just put it on the street like this. I'm not sure if you can compensate. If
you could do another arcade that actually is outdoors that runs east and west.
Yep.
That's open to above and has not walls with doors, but walls with like metal lockable fences, right? So it's kind of like an alley or a muse.
Not English court, but you can go down, but it's like a.
So that's another option. So those units, those resis would have to get shallower in depth.
Yeah.
You know, put a little pressure on them. They make it a little wider, but I think they pull away like a boat from a dock. They pull away to create that separation, right? That I think you need socially and programmatically.
Or if you can just compensate the number with like a upper floors units, just convert this into a retail space, and everything is rosy. Again, I'm just thinking out loud with you.
Cool. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, guys.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah, go.
Go ahead while we fire this.
Is your atrium enclosed at the top?
Oh,
is it?
I wasn't sure if I was going to do that or not. I hadn't decided.
Well, I don't want to design your building for you, but if it's not enclosed, then it's not an atrium, and you might save yourself a lot of a headache.
Yeah, that would save me some headache.
Just based on the definition of atrium in the building code.
Right. So I saw the section, the colorful color block section, and I sent a roof
like a glass box, yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not porous, but I inferred that with the use of the word atrium and the delineation of an atrium silhouette, that it was like in a hotel, right? So that's why I went that way. And so if that assumption was intended and correct, then it opens up all that atrium bullshit that I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
If it's open to the sky, and it rains in it or leaves fall through it or the wind swirls in it, kind of like all my concerns go away. But then another issue comes up, because then you've got like a red roof inn, a 4-story red roof inn, where you've got like a motel, right? Where you've got outdoor, right, walkways that have to go inside to the stairwells, or, you know what I'm saying? So it's a different kind of experience. It's a different kind of product. It changes it. So that's why it has to be thought through. All right. We have one more. Lynn, you're up. I'm going to cue up the clock.
Sure.
We're ready when you are.
All right. I guess we can start by moving right to the second slide that I have today. So a big thing for me is context, and that's a lot of what my research topic was on as well. So I've done a little diagram. I guess this is a 10-minute walking radius of our site, highlighted in a darker magenta, and then looking at some key features around us that I want to pay attention to through my design. So the first being the number, and I'm sure this isn't all of them that I've highlighted, but just those close to us, of buildings of a historical nature and time period and where they sort of are close to us. Contrasting and working with that is the city modern development right nearby, and those styles of architecture that are so close to us and how they work and play together. The third diagram over is just looking at green space, what the site has currently and what the plan is for it to become. And then the last one just looking at sort of vibrancies and streets and retails and transit and all that sort of coming near to our site that our residents are going to be able to benefit from. Moving down to the next slide are just a couple inspiration images on sort of material palettes and ideas of sort of courtyards, which we've seen a lot of today. Green roofs, all those types of things are elements that I'm hoping to pull into my design. Moving on to the fourth plate, you'll see just a couple diagrams showing, I guess, basic gestures that I've gone about to help formally develop the structure. So the first one, we're looking at our ground floor, where I've sort of pushed the building in at the residential entrance as well as the loading bay, giving trucks the ability to move within the narrow alley, pushing out the smaller retail space in the southwest corner to give it some more visibility, and then the larger one on the corner there has great sight. On the second floor, we've pushed in to create sort of a backward C shape where we'll have a courtyard for the residents and some private terraces. And then we're sort of jogging back as well for the second or the main residential entrance. And then just the shelters that we're then creating for the pedestrians without compromising visibility to retail and also conditioning for the elements. Moving on from there, just further development on the floor plans I shared last week. So I have 50 parking spaces down here. 12 of them are for small vehicles though to fit in. That's sort of the first bay that we have there. I have 48 lockers, so I have a little bit of jigging around to do down here to make them all fit, and using some space under the ramp as you had suggested for me, Mark, there to free up some more space. The regular parking spaces are 9 feet by 17 feet, and the small ones are 8 feet by 15 feet in length. All the aisles are 12 feet wide, and we're looking at one-way traffic throughout. Further advancement on the ground floor, nothing, we've added a community space down here and the exercise room down here as well. Reduced the size of the mechanical room as it was a little bit large, and just sort of, I guess, making sure the relationship between the back of house and front of house, I guess, is working together, that we can keep the services behind and the residents have a clean slate. There's also a couple 3D projections just to sort of see those floor plates from another angle and how the spaces interact with each other there. Moving up to the second floor, we have 12 one-bedroom units, 3 two-bedroom units. By creating the C shape, there's only 4 units per floor that don't have a balcony or outdoor terrace. We have a second community room as well as laundry. And I had decided to put the community terrace on this second floor roof level to keep people sort of within their context and sort of have this private space where you can still view a historical structure, but more at that level. And you're not just, I guess, at the rooftops, you're sort of still within your context and enjoying the space and the vibrancy that I hope to create in that courtyard amongst the residents as a sort of private zone. Going up to our third and fourth floor plans, have a little bit of jigging around here to do as well to get a couple more units in. I've started developing the unit plans as it affects sort of where I have punch windows, which is what I've chosen to do for the residential units to mimic some of the historical buildings in our adjacent structure. And then the roof plan just to be a blank slate green roof. I don't have too much programmed or planned up here right now. The elevator overrun will have one stair heading up there for maintenance, and it'll be a green roof to help manage water, insulate, nothing too much up here. The next couple slides are just showing some elevations that I've started working on and sort of animating the facades a little bit more, putting in balconies and sort of bringing this up to life. I guess one feature is still kept to be sort of our functional stair, not sort of an exit stair, something that's a little bit more enjoyable for the residents to use right along John R. And then the last are just a couple of sort of colored views that I've started to see what we're looking at on the street here. And that's it.
Okay, hold on a second. Something. 2 minutes early. Okay, so wow, this is pretty nice. This looks good. Oh, I'm just looking at the last rendering. So let me pick a couple of things up here. So I'm going back to the beginning. So the idea, Lynn, that you have this, like, so thinking about like what I'm looking at right now in tonight's presentation, and then thinking about how you all, right, I'm talking to you, Lynn, but I'm talking to all of y'all, how you all like think about unpacking your work to a bunch of people that don't know your work or don't know the project, or don't have the experience that we've had, you know, working with you all year. How you do that. So sometimes you just show them, right? You know, you just open your code. You just show them the image, right? You show them the whole thing so that they have a kind of like a gestalt, right, in their mind of the project. Now you showed the whole building, and you showed it, and I want to talk about this, you showed it from the ground level, from the street, from like our level. This is a really important decision. You could have shown it like 3 stories up, the way most architects think that that's cool as a way, you know, the vantage point. That's the wrong vision to take. I think that there's moments when you do aerials to show an object in context, but to show an object as something that you want to engage, right, the viewer, the audience, you show it at the street level. You show it as someone riding their bike by or walking by. So this was spot on. My only problem with the rendering, and I realize where we are, is that it has an enormous amount of foreground that is neutralizing, right, the content of the image. So when you dial this in, Lynn, you're going to contextualize this even more with stuff, you know, people riding bikes and buses and cars and maybe more buildings in the foreground, and take it from there. But a really, really strong, firm, gripping handshake of a way to unpack the story. And then you just say, we're not even going to talk about that drawing. We're going to go right to plate 2. So I like how you lead the discussion very quickly, taking control of the conversation. This is important. And it's just these little bubbles showing us the things you're studying and why they're important. But I think that you might need some text to help us dial in, like green space. Just so you don't have to talk about it, right? You don't have to say that word. It's kind of like clunking us on the head like an anvil falling from the sky. We can hear you say a couple of things, but we're already classifying the drawings and understanding their role in your thinking. Maybe the only thing that you say with drawings like this, you guys, is what you got out of that analysis. Onto the next plate, the materials I think are really, and the case studies are really good. These are deserving of similar notations, helping us understand what they are or where they might go in your building, and helping dial in and classify the content, right? Yeah, like I don't even know what the light blue is. Maybe that's a metal panel, which would be cool. But but like, show me a picture of a real metal panel. Show me the standing seam. Show me the interlock. Show me a picture of real metal panel, for example. But where we are right now, I'm totally sort of complicit with you on this.
Yes.
And then,
yeah,
I'm going to say this right now. Thank you for this plate, the diagrams. I want you all to do this plate. I'm just going to say that. This is the only requirement. I said plan sections, elevations, and 3D models for the next iteration. You need to do this plate. You all need to do this plate. You all need to do this plate because like Alex showed us, and like others before her showed us, the site has like tensions and forces acting on it. And the architectural form, which are contextual, and the architectural form here is, I think, trying to respond to those forces, right? And so this is a very simple drawing. But what I think is important about this drawing is it's showing things happening above and below simultaneously. right? So this is a really useful drawing, not just to explain your project, Lynn, but I think it's a way for you to explain, for you all to explain what your project is organized like, so that your critics, so thanks for that. So you've got locker storage, you've got storage. I think you've got plenty of spaces and places to find more lockers. I've already said that just because there's 50 units doesn't mean you have to have 50 lockers, but I think it would be a good goal to hit that. The other thing that I think is sort of worth remarking is that, you know, this is a parking plan that works and is trying to take, it's proving that it works, right? Because you've drawn these things dimensionally accurately, you've validated, you've backed up those with dimensions, right? And it's a very clear drawing in that regard. So and the three-dimensional sketches, I think, help sort of describe that. Maybe the only feedback, which is my word for negative, right? The only feedback I have for you is the first floor. It has like labyrinthian clarity, but you have literally said, okay, God damn it, you've given me 10 pounds of coffee beans and I'm jamming all of this into a 5-pound bag. There, I did it, right? And so fuck you, Mark. I did it. You can't take it apart. So so like the remarks that I made with like Alex earlier and with I think it was Josh, and you know everybody had like these moments where there were these arcades. There were moments of porosity, and like if you could improve this, it might be there. It might be like do a figure ground drawing of the first floor plan. And think about like common corridors and public corridors, and what does that drawing look like? And then go back to the drawings of the 3 block drawings that you did, the idea diagrams, and see if the first floor is hitting that, if it's actually doing what you're saying. But I think that's my only sort of like, I wish it wasn't so, the first floor wasn't so hermetic. But you know, it's a really hard thing to do, but I think it's worth doing. And on the other hand, you know, you've done things like you've been able to do all of this because you haven't provided parking on the first floor. I'm sorry, at grade, but you provided loading. So there's a lot of program on the first floor, and I think that was the trade-off. So I'm not uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable with that.
I guess. Oh, sorry. I guess one thing with the ground floor that I'm struggling with is, I guess, the desire to offer residents an entry off of both streets and then connecting them with giving the retail the corner. And that's, I guess, it's sort of massaging that a little bit more, and maybe the retail loses a bit of square footage to allow for a better flow between the 2 spaces. And that's something I need to look at in this next week of work and go from there, because it's definitely been a challenge to meet those goals.
Yeah. If you draw that figure ground, I think that may illuminate, right? It might emphasize these relationships and these circuitous sort of pathways, and it might be clear for you. You have a lot of back of house, including the loading and building management. I'm not objecting to those things. I think those are realistic things, and degree of difficulty with Alex a moment ago vis-a-vis the atrium. You know, you've taken the degree of difficulty in a different direction as it relates to like I know these buildings. It's clear to me, Lynn, that you kind of know these kinds of buildings, and you're bringing what you know, right, to the planning of it. So I appreciate what I would say is the humidity, right, level, right, the relative humidity level in the plans here. So, but we'll work through that together. I think they're solid here. The only other thing, Lynn, is Unit 210. south of the laundry room. I kind of like, so the bedroom is in the hinge, right, facing the terrace, and the living room is facing, I think it's a solid wall, but it could be a glass wall.
Yeah, there is to be a window punched in
Right.
there.
Yeah, and then I think the laundry room has probably the opportunity for windows there too. That might be lovely. Same with the community room. I think you just need to discharge windows into those walls to sort of show that level of thoroughness or completeness. But that's probably your most sort of clumsy room, right? And I remember the Z apartment that Andrew had, right? I think maybe this is maybe a potentially interesting apartment, or it could be a miserable one. And one way I look, so the one way when I do these things, drawn it the way you drew it, I would have laid it out the way you did. But then I might have said, wait a minute, what if the living room is where the bedroom is? And the bedroom is where you've drawn the living room. And what does that do for the kitchen and the bathroom and in the closet? So sometimes when you get stuck on these units, you guys, and you think it kind of works, but you have like this hunch or this feeling that it's not quite there, or you hear something like about it, act on it by flipping it. Like we were talking with Paige earlier today. Just flip the whole thing and see if that animates and obviates a solution that's maybe better. I think that's the most challenging unit.
Yeah, it's one I've been struggling with and definitely need to revisit.
I'm not surprised. Okay, so and then finally, because you took so much care in drawing the elevations and illustrating materials and bringing the sort of relative conversation about structure, right, from below and into the facades. Let me say a couple of things. The window sizes and their proportions seem appropriate, right, for the kind of occupancy that's happening in them. I appreciate that they're punched, but I also value, Lynn, that they're really magnificent in size. So when you do a figure ground, notice how I'm using first year terms with you guys. When you do figure ground studies of the elevations, did he just say that? Do we have to do figure ground studies of your elevations? Yes, people, this is how designers design, right? We do overlays and overlays to test, right, the proportion and the tension, like the proximity between one window group and another window group. So like, I can tell you've already kind of done that in your work. Maybe the only other feedback for me would be the sort of the cornice line and how that is obviously flat, and maybe that's something that you can think about in terms of activating it and sort of disturbing it a little bit, not in the expedient way where since there's a hard corner, I'm going to elevate that corner, but thinking about it as a figure ground study and thinking about it as maybe emphasizing the texture of brush part, right? That you already kind of know about. I think that's all I got, right? Yeah, a really, really good start. Honestly, I did not expect you all to be here right now. This is obviously where you want to be for the architecture, ladies and gentlemen, very soon. I honestly didn't expect you to be here right now. But I expect you to be in about a week and a half with your architecture. Again, because this guy next to me is going to be like rallying for you to imbue your work with all of the technical competencies that you are required to. to sort of manifest and illustrate, right, in your work. But you have demonstrated that by thinking it through and by relying on your instincts and by talking about your work and working hard, that you can be here at this time. So I definitely I'm just saying I acknowledge that, okay? That's all I got.
Thank you, Lynn. I was just telling Mark that she does have a very nice module. So her probably structural thoughts or module is done pretty much. But I looked back at the columns here in the first floor, and I think some of them should follow the same module that you created, i.e. These nice columns should come in the intersection of the two axes if you are thinking to convert these axes into a structural module. Otherwise, you might have another idea on how these columns would work. The services here, I was just telling Mark, you're very kind of large in providing mechanical generator room. They are on the large side, okay? So you might want to think of, you know, not cutting, but just taking some of these spaces and use them. And for example, you could solve this reception vestibule and add probably some area to your retail suite on the south east side. This will, you don't pay for that, but this will provide you some financial kind of thing here. I don't know. I think the service suite here in relation to the retail, the vestibule, it could be better. Okay, I'm not saying it's bad, but could be better than that. Nice entrance lobby, very welcoming, connection to the stair, doors to the right of way, trash chutes next to the garbage room, very nice. Although this is kind of an embedded inside, I'm not sure if this guy will penetrate this far with this this thing. What else?
Maybe the only other feedback about the way the retail is organized in the plan, Lynn, is and I acknowledge that this is a hard site, right? That's why I gave you the site plan. I mean, I literally told you how to organize the site, and you did it that way. A lot of you did it that way. But like the corner retail space at the hard corner has, like, it has to access the back of house of the building through the common dressier corridor. So, and it will inevitably have people traipsing between those two realms, back of house and the retail space, through that corridor. So it's going to get grimy over time, and that corner space likely wants to be, you know, a restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to have wet grime, right? Stinky ass grime. Like, it's not going to be a Hallmark store on the corner. It's going to be that place where Andrew's going to buy me a beer after crits, right? It's going to be a burger, fries, and a beer joint, right? So kind of that's kind of the hard thing about it. And I think you made it harder by having this sort of duplicate lobby reception thing. That I'm saying to you is, what you did is not wrong. I'm just saying to you, y'all are gonna like think that this is the way to go because Mark's enthusiastic about this floor plan, but a developer is gonna say, well, wait a minute, I gotta have grease traps. I've got to have like deliveries that have to come into the kitchen. You know, I got to get rid of that corridor, get rid of the two entrances, give me more retail, let me connect the corner retail, which is going to be, goddammit, a restaurant with the back of house. Yeah, or, right? And the reason I think the hard corner is going to be a restaurant is also because you privileged so much open space, right, on Alfred and John Arb with that outdoor dimension. So that's like definitely the cafe area. So maybe then the cafe restaurant happens at the south end, where the management office is, and maybe that's where the back of house starts to connect.
You might want to think of merging them together.
It's not perfect, but like that's how you would, if you're talking to a developer and they're pounding their fist about
because
where this should go.
It goes by square foot.
Right, because square foot and ease and facilities, people are screaming at you. So you have to be kind of malleable and flexible and creative in coming up with optimal solutions within an anticipation of the ideal, right? So even though this is a brand new building, you guys, and even though it shouldn't have anything wrong with it by the end of the semester, right? These buildings are always a series of like these wonderful compromises about them. And so they're never going to be perfect. They're never going to be the Parthenon, right? They're never going to be a perfect object. They're going to be the resolution of many forces that are acting in compromising ways to make something that's ideally really, really perfect, just really fucking good, right? So that's kind of how you have to look at this exercise.
Yeah, you might want to think of like merging this building management space with the retail space, and probably try to put the building management somewhere, probably in the back near the exercise room, whatever you feel confident. Have this corridor go through, and probably you need, in this case, to close or have a door on the service. 130, 1284 square feet, 64. Oh yeah, 84. What's this dash line that's coming into the service room?
Those are overhead doors or loading dock?
Here, this.
That's probably a drop floor.
Drop floor.
Overhead door.
Well, that's the
But
overhead
there would
door.
need to be something for. I don't know if that then slopes for the truck bed.
Well, the
or,
loading area is actually exterior. I see the note now, EXT. So that's so vehicles could park there and then move if they have to receive a garbage truck, for example.
Yes.
So the building manager guy, he might be able to park there, or she might be able to park there.
Oh, so her access to the garbage is okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's really close. And I think if you just kind of study that circulation a little bit more, and maybe think of the cafe as the south space, right? I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
The typical floors, Lynn, are just gorgeous. I love the plumbing ducts here that you created. So that's a very deep thought of the systems of the building. That's greatly appreciated. You even put for me the elevator counterweight, if I can magnify this. Thank you. Probably the elevations here are very nice, straightforward. You need, though, to think about your structural system here, because it seems to me that you are taking windows or the glass from the way till the roof, considering that you're going to have probably a drop ceiling for the mechanical systems here, which is the one that will represent this nice fascia that's continuous all over your elevations. Did you think of a structural system that hold this nice building? Concrete, steel? Did you think of anything like that?
Yeah.
This is our next step.
I think I'm leaning towards concrete and looking at using shear walls between some of the units. I'm not too sure. Steel, I don't know how I feel about steel, the reverberations and the cross bracing and everything that goes into that. So I think I'm leaning concrete.
Okay. Okay. I need more probably study, a color study for the elevations. I would love to see colorful elevation. I used to, when I taught construction systems, we did have an exercise that we give them a floor plan, generic, and everybody create his or her enclosure completely. Somebody go with them. This is kind of a small office building. Everybody goes with his desire on dressing this building, metal cladding, brick and block. They like, but everybody has to submit to me sort of a color schemed elevation. So I would love to later to see this, how this would work out with your nice scheme here. I think when you do that, the 3D will come way sexier than that. Okay. Probably try to play some materials here, not just like it seems to me that it's just a brick and just changed here. It's slightly dark.
On the second to last perspective, you have those baguettes. What is that?
So if it's the future I'm thinking you're referring to, I'm thinking that they're going to be a Corten steel fit, like fins almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the inspiration image on the,
I remember
the third slide.
Yeah, the first.
Right.
So my hope with those is to provide a bit of shade and a bit of privacy for residents on the main streets, and just bringing a different dynamic to the facade, and not having brick everywhere, but still keeping with those tones. And so what the materiality is behind it, I'm still sort of debating. I'm thinking some type of panel system, whether it's aluminum or a composite or phenolic or what it is, I don't know. Nothing too robust.
Len, you still can use the metal walls here very good with the brick. Okay, that does give you a very nice futuristic look, if you would like. Metal panels, metal walls, cladding here would work perfect with this if you want to infuse some of these in between the brick. Elevations need some work. The openings make sense, very luxurious, very welcoming, admitting daylight on the luxury side, not just these two small windows and stuff, but you need to think more about the elevations, the texture, the color, more texture and color, materials. Try to have interesting elevation. You have perfect plans. This is, I call it old school. If we have a big dilemma project like this, we usually start with the floor plan exactly like what you did. But at the end, the elevations just sometimes drop from the thought, not afterthought, but drop from, it's still the beauty. It doesn't give the beauty that this building deserves. Ends up like my lab will end if you don't advance a little bit. It will be flushed out the toilet, flushed down the toilet, okay? So, I mean, yeah, you need to just give some thoughts to the elevations as you go with your structure is pretty much okay. Just drop for us the columns to the basement, the first floor and the basement. This is our next step. Structure module, and you pick what system are you going to use. Whether mostly I was just asking Carmen whether it's a concrete, as you just mentioned, or a steel. That's pretty much.
You know, I think the comment that you just made to Lynn about the elevations. Remember, I just said that I'm going to require you all to do the drawing that you did, Lynn. The three drawings. Maybe the way to think about, which is also really what Alex did before you. Maybe the way to think about the elevations as a compositional sort of approach or strategy is to do that kind of drawing of the elevation, right? To think of the elevation as a conceptual partie, and try to approach the facades that way. And also, let me remind you all of the earlier conversations that maybe most of you heard, but I kind of think of objects like these because you have two very important street fronts, and when those street walls meet, they meet at a hard corner. So those are kind of coat and tie, right, with a brooch, right? Those are important architectural moments, right? So those are high priority facades. Those are A+ and A facades, right? And then there's the alley facade, which is like a C facade. And then there's like the residential property to the west. That's maybe like a B or an A- facade. Not just in terms of like what I think of it, but it could be understood that way in terms of material. It could be understood that way in terms of material in expense or material in texture, material in color. So thinking of the ranking of facades as it relates to that Partee diagram might help like bring all of you, not just you, Lynn, but bring all of your elevations along in a more sort of robust and refined way. So if you remember the lecture, right? If you remember the lecture that we had with Beth Whitaker, she talked about that. She talked about a fascination with texture, facades, and materials that could yield that texture, that were contemporary but fit the context, and then finding something in the context like you all have been interested in that could be represented in a way that was refreshed and contemporary and new, bless you, but still be historically linked to the place. So
I would echo Mark's Partee kind of, have a concept, Lynn. If I am to give you a grade today, okay, this doesn't influence, this is my grade.
Yeah, I'll cover my
yeah, he will plug his ears. I would give you in the A category, starting 90 and up for the floor plans, but your elevation is just a normal thing. It's like a 73, it's a kind of C thing. It hasn't developed. I'm not saying it's bad, okay? Listen to me carefully. It's not bad, but it hasn't been taken the thinking, the deep thinking that the floor plans have gotten. I would, like, for example, I loved Eric's facades, although they weren't that mature and very well thought of, everything in its place, probably like a construction drawing level, but he thought of the facade as like a base with a kind of a base color, nice reddish, and then he started doing the upper floors and a whitish. He hasn't decided, but this is the Partee kind of thing that Mark is talking about. Concept for the facade.
we have to break. Thanks, Lynn. And thank you, Ash. I know it's late, but I'll just make some closing remarks and then we'll let you go. I would encourage you all to, first of all, spend like the rest of this evening and process as quickly as you can the grade sheets for your classmates. Make sure you go back to the email that I sent you when I sent the grade sheets to you, that you file save the grade sheet and name it based on those instructions, because it'll make my life in downloading each of your emails and moving those grade sheets into the appropriate folders so that I can return them to you as promptly as you deserve them. And I'd like to see those by the end of business on Friday, which is tomorrow. So you need to like really press on that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I will remind Christoph about his grade sheets, and hopefully he can have those to you tomorrow. And if not, he might not return them to me until Friday night or Saturday morning. I will return those to you as soon as I get them from him. And then I will be working on your grade sheets over the weekend, and I hope to have them to you by Monday, if not sooner. I really work hard to give you the feedback quickly while it's fresh and while there's time to react to the sort of feedback and the observations. so that will take us through benchmark 1/module 2 with one sort of caboose, right? End of the train. On Tuesday next week, we will have a debriefing about these 2 evenings for a few minutes, along with a lecture. So we'll have the debriefing, we'll have a lecture, and then I will visit with each of you individually for a few minutes. And that will comprise all of my time with you on Tuesday. And then we will start into a normal cycle of desk crits and whatnot the following night, so a week from tonight. I know Ash will have his sections after our class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's the immediate calendar for the next week. I also want to encourage you to take a look at the work plan document at the beginning, from the beginning of the semester, to sort of sort of know where we are right now. Kind of look at where we've been. Maybe draw light lines through the days and the weeks that where we are, where we've been, and then do the look ahead, right? You know, basically October starts next week, and that means that we only have about 10 weeks left, and you're already 6 weeks in, right? So you've taken a big bite of the apple. You're probably thinking, oh, 10 weeks, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time when you gauge what's expected of you for this compulsory class relative to what you have to do. So be mindful of that and recognize that where Lynn's drawings were tonight, that's kind of where you need to be very, very soon. So I'd like you to really press. I know you pressed hard for this deliverable, but that's where you need to be, certainly before the next benchmark. But the sooner you get to where Lynn's drawings are, quite honestly, a lot of the drawings of your colleagues are, then you're going to be better off to focus on those other things. I don't want the design to be a fetish or a distraction for you. I want to work on the design by imbuing it with all of the systems and enclosure and all of the sort of technical things that we need to have you examine, right, as we move into the rest of the class. I think that's it. I think overall, I'm encouraged by some things that Ash has told me, and that is that the other sections for comp design aren't really where we are right now. So I feel real good about that. Not in a competitive way, but just in terms of my instinct of where I believe you need to be in a class like this. So I feel like you're where I think you need to be. That maybe another section is a little bit focused on something else, or maybe behind compared to where you are right now, is neither here nor there. But I think you should be encouraged by that, because I am. And I also think that the overall, I don't feel like there's any sort of glaring issues or glaring problems that you're all in a place where I'm comfortable with. And I think some of you will have to work a little bit harder, but I'm prepared to and happy to help you move your work and advance it so that it's more comprehensive than where it sits tonight, or like where it sat on Tuesday night. That's kind of the role, and that's the gig that I signed up for. So I'm happy to work with you on that. So in all, I feel real good about where we are, and I'm looking forward to giving you the feedback in writing. And like I said, I'll focus on that over the weekend, and we'll go over those comments on Tuesday night in our group session. But I'd also like you to spend a few minutes over the weekend looking at your critique, because when you're in a review, you're kind of like not there because you're kind of reacting and you're not taking notes, and right. So I think you need to go back and refresh it and replay it so that it's fresh in your memory. So I think that's an important thing to do. I expect you to do that for Tuesday night. I don't have anything else. So
for me, guys, I'm really thrilled to come to this level of drawings very fast, which will allow us to kind of polish and polish and polish. And it actually reduces my depression if you're ahead. Why? Because I don't have to get cramped. And towards the end, as the case with the on-ground version, I'm willing to do my best. But the earlier that you guys finish the design, the better for the lab components to kick in. Please watch over this weekend for the release of the second after research, which we shared with Mark, module 2, which is going to be a structure module. As I mentioned several times during your crits, that this is your next step, so you need to think about your structural system. As I asked some of you today, decide whether it's going to be steel or concrete. Think of your enclosure as well. From the, I think probably I'm going to give a brief lecture on enclosure and instructions. In the meantime, it's simply you do what you did, Lynn and who else? Alex to some extent. Who else was kind of having nice
Tried to talk about structure.
Tried, yeah, he still have some quirks, but his floor plan's kind of
they all did.
nice
I
modular.
think, Josh did as well.
So start thinking about where, how this floor will hold. How, okay? Where are the columns? If you have a shear walls, something like that, this will all reflect on your basement floor plan. I would go with the shear walls around the elevators. That's normal. Some of the stairs, if you would like. If you go concrete, this will make your life okay. Steel, we need some bracing and stuff. You don't have. We are not going to go into very deep into the structure or HVAC. Probably enclosure. I'm an enclosure guy, so I expect everybody to have legitimate, excellent wall sections, very clear, crystal clear. I'm not going to give up this. But on the structural, you don't have to calculate anything, as Mark practicing for 30 years probably. Architects are the masterminds, okay? You tell these structure imbeciles where these columns go. So you have to be aware of, you take the decision and you tell them, yeah, I want this here, okay? So this required from you in this capstone that you do have like basic structural knowledge about the spans, if this is safe or unsafe, this needs something here. Oh no, this will create a torsion. This is, if this beam going on this girder, this is what's going to happen. So we'll go over this just in a basic way. You're not going to be a structural engineer. You're not responsible for any calculations, but in order to execute your dreams, you have to have basic structure knowledge about safety. This structure is safe. You need a column here. This will fall. This cantilever is too long. It needs tension, column, anything. Like Andrew, there's open space, as Mark mentioned. So we'll talk about this next time. So be prepared for the release of the assignment. I'm just gonna remove some fluff from the previous years. I have, a lot of stuff, so I gotta edit these as I did with you, and as I did with module 1 of research. It was like 10, 12 pages. I cramped them into 1.5 page. So I'm doing this right now.
Brevity.
Yeah, I'm doing this right now for God's sake and for your sake, to all pray for me. Remember me in your prayers and not cursing me in your dreams. So I'm trying to make it fun, fruitful like Mark. I'm not as good speaker like him, but I'm gonna try to compensate that in my requirements from you. As long as you do the basic things, I'm gonna be very satisfied. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ash. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks to Andrew and Carmen for being here tonight. It's good to meet you. Good to see you again, and I look forward to next week, and I hope you have a productive weekend. Thanks again. Good job.